Hey everyone, per your requests, I'm starting Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang today. My channel isn't monetized, so if you're able to, please support me on PayPal to help me stay active. Chapters 301 through 320 of the previous episode. Tang guides his team, Wu Bingji, Gu Li, Changzi Chang, and Du Bai to the Golden Valley, a secret base established by him and his master, Zhang Haoxuan. The team was astounded by the incredibly dense life energy radiating from the growing golden tree, which is sustained by Tang San's intricate arrays, drastically accelerating their cultivation. Tang San also brings the 18 Crimson Fox girls to the valley, taking them under his wing and teaching them array formations and the purple demon eyes to enhance their self-defense. Meanwhile, having absorbed immense life energy, Zhang Haoxuan is ready to break through to the god level. To avoid the plane's suppression and demon interference, Tang San takes his master out to the endless blue sea. During Zhang's tribulation, Tang San accidentally leaks a sliver of his God King consciousness, provoking the plane to strike him with 3 massive lightning bolts. Tang San swiftly retracts his aura and pulls his master underwater to escape. Zhang Haoxuan successfully ascends to godhood, his Blaze Lion bloodline evolving with a golden hue. Back in the Golden Valley, Tang San links the spirit-summoning, illusionary, and sky-swallowing arrays to create a flawless defense system that conceals the valley while maximizing energy absorption for the Golden Tree. In this optimal environment, Du Bai sprouts a third tail, breaking through to the 6th order of the Celestial Fox transformation, gaining the true ability to control misfortune, stripping luck from enemies. Simultaneously, Wu Bingji, Gu Li, and Changzi Chang achieve significant breakthroughs in their cultivation and combat skills, fully prepared for their upcoming battles at the Great Beast Fighting Arena. Thank you. Now let's get back to the
It seemed that starting from the third tail, there was a limitation on the abilities of the Celestial Fox transformation. However, this limitation was in fact the mark of a truly powerful ability, and the narrower the application of this ability, the more powerful it would be. 3 days later, Wu Bingji and Appo's cultivation finally returned to the 8th order, faster than expected. The breakthrough process was smooth and effortless. According to Wu Bingji, if bloodline burning could achieve such purification effects, he would be willing to burn it a few more times. However, Tang San rejected this idea. Although the golden tree could replenish life force, burning one and Appo's bloodline still harmed the essence of cultivation. Doing it once was fine with slow recovery, but burning the essence continuously in a short period would not be easy to recover from. Moreover, the purity level he had achieved this time was quite good for now. Tang San suggested that when he reached the 9th order in the future, he could consider another purification in preparation for breaking through to the god level. However, Wu Bingji and Appo's ice nymph transformation was not an especially powerful bloodline, so after reaching the 8th order, his cultivation progress began to slow down. Cultivating in the Golden Valley would yield twice the result with half the effort, but it still required time to accumulate enough to reach the 9th order. Even so, he was undoubtedly a genius among the students of the Redemption Academy. He wasn't even 20 years old, yet he had already reached the 8th order. Among his peers in the organization, only Tang San had the same cultivation. Of course, Tang San was much younger, making him even more extraordinary. The 4 team battles in the Great Beast Fighting Arena had benefited the entire Shrek squad. Wu Bingji and Appo's cultivation remained at the 8th order, but thanks to igniting his bloodline power, his ice nymph transformation had undergone a metamorphosis, and the purity and strength of his bloodline had increased. Meanwhile, Changzi Chang was close to the peak of the 7th order. Even though she was 2 years younger than Wu Bingji, Gu Li had also advanced to the 7th order, and the Chrono Croc transformation had experienced a qualitative leap. Of course, the most important advancement was Du Bai and Appo's. As for Tang San himself, the advancements of his companions were equivalent to his own. He had elevated his Chrono Croc transformation to the 7th order. After absorbing enough Celestial Fox aura from Du Bai, he elevated his Discerning Eye of Heaven to the 6th order. What Du Bai had, he also possessed. He was still at the 8th order overall, but his strength had reached a higher level. Shall we try the 5th match? Wu Bingji suggested. Wei Haven and Appo's T collected our prize from last time. As expected, he never forgot the important things in life. Think we can. Tang San nodded with a smile. His companions and Oppos, overall strength had increased, and getting some practice would allow them to stabilize their cultivation, as well as provide motivation and stimulus for further improvement. I and Oppos, LL make a trip to the Great Beast Fighting Arena. We must put forward some demands for our next match this time, Tang San said with a smile. After 4 team battles, the Shrek squad was no longer seen as cannon fodder by the Great Beast Fighting Arena. Their human identity caused their popularity to soar rapidly, and the last time the arena was packed, making it a lot of money. Making some demands was naturally reasonable. Zhang Haoshuan had not returned yet. The list Tang San had given him included some very valuable items that were hard to purchase, so he hadn't Oppos. T gathered them all yet. His eagerness for the teleportation array even made him travel to other cities to look for materials. Thus, Tang San didn't wait for him and went back to Kali City by himself. The Great Beast Fighting Arena, as always, was filled with an atmosphere of death and bloodshed. Tang San entered quietly, concealing his face behind a hood and mask. He only needed to mention the Shrek squad and Oppos' name and show the relevant proof. Soon, the familiar bloodthirsty demon ape appeared in front of him again. You and Oppos V come. Are you ready for the 5th match? How are your team members recovering? The bloodthirsty demon ape asked, seemingly concerned. Of course its concern wasn't in Oppos' T how well they were feeling, but how well they could fight. If your teammates aren't in fighting shape, replacing 1 or 2 is also allowed, the bloodthirsty demon ape added. In its view, the Shrek squad had suffered severe injuries last time, with only 2 members relatively unscathed, while the other 3 were seriously wounded. Tang San said, no need to replace anyone. Our injuries have mostly healed. We and Oppos V come this time to prepare for the 5th match. But first we must collect our prize from the last match. With so much pestering from Wu Bingji, Tang San wouldn't forget about something. Upon hearing that he was here to continue competing, the bloodthirsty demon ape and Oppos' eyes immediately lit up. The prize is not an issue. When are you planning to compete again? The last match was one of the Great Beast Fighting Arena and Oppos' most profitable events in recent years. The participation of many human vassals brought in a lot of extra income, greatly pleasing the arena and Oppos' higher-ups. The demons naturally looked down on humans, but they had to admit that humans were large in number. Such victories in the Great Beast Fighting Arena were very stimulating for humans, making the human vassals more excited and interested in the arena and Oppos' competitions. Therefore, the arena and Oppos' officials were even considering matching the Shrek squad with weaker opponents to let them hold on for a few more matches, thereby extracting more profit. Tang San said, in 3 days. But we have a request. I need to know some information about our opponents in advance so we can prepare better. I Don and Oppos' T believe that our previous opponents knew nothing about us. The bloodthirsty demon ape glanced at him and said, that goes against the rules. Tang San calmly replied, aren't and Oppos' you the one setting the rules? The last battle caused us heavy losses. The prize money you gave us might not even cover the resources we used for treatment. If we can and Oppos' know anything about our opponents in advance, we are considering quitting. After all, the risk is just too great. The bloodthirsty demon ape gave him a deep look, somewhat believing Tang San and Oppos' words. After all, during the last match, one of them had burned his bloodline, another fractured both her arms, and a third exhausted his spiritual power. None of these things were easy to treat. Let and Oppos' do it this way. Rules still need to be followed, so I can and Oppos' reveal the specifics about your opponents. But the day before the match I can tell you what race they're from. That and Oppos' the bottom line. Only if you win more than 6 matches will you qualify to know some details about your opponents in advance. This is a special privilege for teams with more than 6 victories. Agreed, Tang San said immediately. Knowing their opponents in Oppos' race would allow them to make corresponding preparations. For him, not having these details wasn't an Oppos' a big deal, but for his companions, having the information to analyze and prepare tactics was beneficial for their growth. Having agreed on the time for their next battle, The bloodthirsty demon ape led Tang San to collect the rewards from the last one. According to the rules, each participant could receive a fixed reward of 4 Naturi coins for victory in the 4th match. This meant the fixed reward for the 5 of them was 20 Naturi coins. However, Tang San collected no less than 50 Naturi coins. The bloodthirsty demon ape kindly informed him that this was their revenue share from tickets and bets. It should have been 29 Naturi coins plus some spare change, but the arena had generously rounded it up to 30. These Naturi coins had very strong purchasing power. Undoubtedly, the eldest brother would be pretty satisfied with such a reward to be why participating in team battles, they had already accumulated a considerable fortune, which they could spend in the ancestral court. After leaving the great beast fighting arena, Tang San did not hurry back to the Golden Valley but went to the center of Cali City to buy a cup of milk tea. Whenever he had time, he would come to buy a cup of milk tea. Even though he couldn't and oppose, TC Mei Gongzi seeing Su Qin there reassured him. At least it proved that Mei Gongzi had not left and nothing significant had changed. Su Qin had a deep impression of Tang San. Seeing him come to buy milk tea again, she smiled and said, "You seem to have grown taller again. You should be around 13, right? You already look like a young man." Tang San took the milk tea and smiled. "Thank you, Auntie." "Yes, go back early. Stay safe," Su Qin advised, not saying much more. "All right. Goodbye, Auntie," Tang San replied respectfully, holding the warm milk tea. He drank it while leaving Cali Plaza. He would think of Mei Gongzi whenever he tasted the milk tea. He still cherished the cup she gave him before her seclusion because it had her fingerprints and traces of her energy. He missed her so much. Tang San took a big sip of the milk tea, trying to control his emotions. Before she returned, he needed to lay a solid foundation, strive to reach the 9th order, and further regenerate his divine consciousness. Even if he couldn't and oppose breakthrough to godhood, he needed to achieve true combat power at that level. When she was out of seclusion, she might start her fight for inheritance rights. At that time, she would need his help the most. Somewhere in Cali City, in a quiet room, sitting cross-legged on the stone bed, Mei Gongzi slowly opened her eyes, a hint of pale silver light flashing in her beautiful eyes. She had spent more than a year in seclusion here, rarely seeing the sun, and her skin was even paler. Opposite her, the peacock Great Demon King was also meditating cross-legged. At least on the surface, his condition did not seem to have worsened. Sensing Mei Gongzi awaken, the peacock Great Demon King slowly opened his eyes. "How do you feel?" Mei Gongzi nodded and said, "I and Oppos V made some progress and my cultivation is stable now. Yes, the 8th order is significant for us. It will give you the true ability to integrate into space, and the progress of star shift can also be further deepened. Little Mei, starting today I will teach you a new ability. This is a secret technique of our clan that even I cannot master." Mei Gongzi was taken aback. "You can't? To be precise, no male can master it. Do you know when the last demon emperor appeared in our clan?" asked the peacock Great Demon King. "Wasn't Oppos it 3 generations ago?" The peacock Great Demon King nodded. "Do you know the gender of this ancestor?" Mei Gongzi said flatly, "I wasn't Oppos allowed to study in the clan school, so how would I know? That ancestor was female. For a demon emperor to emerge in our peacock demon clan, it must be a female." Mei Gongzi was stunned. "Aren't the male peacock and Oppos' tail plumes the most beautiful? Few females even possess that kind of peacock feathers." The peacock Great Demon King shook its head and said, "That and Oppos' how the outside world understands it. But in reality, only females can truly unleash the peak power of our clan and Oppos' bloodline. And within you flows the bloodline of this female ancestor. When you were very young, I implanted the essence blood of this ancestor in you. That and Oppos' why you could awaken the peacock gold crown at such a young age and be recognized by me as one of the heirs. Well, this and Oppos', one of the heirs and Oppos' talk is just what I say to the other clan members. As far as I'm concerned, you're not just and Oppos', one of and Oppos', but and Oppos', the and Oppos', there's nobody else." Mei Gongzi was stunned. She never expected that the peacock Great Demon King had implanted ancestral blood in her. She had no memory of this at all. The bloodline of the ancestral peacock Great Demon Emperor? No wonder she had never felt the issues caused by a diluted bloodline that human vassals invariably experience during cultivation. The bloodline power of the ancestral peacock demon emperor flowed within her, and this talent came from that. The peacock great demon king continued, after this seclusion, I might have to face that fellow. Moreover, I am already half burned out. The future of the peacock demon clan is entrusted to you. I have only one request. You can cleanse those who oppose you, but you must ensure the continuation of the peacock demon clan and Appo's bloodline. I want an Appo's. Oppose it even if you want to support and protect humans. But the peacock demon clan and Appo's bloodline must continue. Can you promise me that? Mei Gongzi looked at her father before her, remained silent momentarily, and then nodded. The peacock great demon king smiled. Good. Although I know you prefer to see yourself as human, the blood of the peacock demon clan flows in you. I believe that in the future, you will certainly become the new peacock demon emperor. When you were young, I took you to the ancestral court and asked the celestial fox demon emperor to peer into your future. Do you know what the celestial fox demon emperor said to me then? Mei Gongzi shook her head. The peacock great demon king said, His Majesty told me you have great fortune. Moreover, he had never seen such fortune on any demon clan member. He couldn't and Appo's see your future clearly, nor your achievements. He said he had only seen such a situation once or twice, and those he observed were above him. In other words, the future he saw for you is above him, and he ranks third in the ancestral court. Mei Gongzi and Appo's beautiful eyes widened slightly. She had always thought she was talented and worked hard, but she had never imagined that she could reach the level of a demon emperor. The peacock great demon king smiled and said, So, never underestimate yourself. In the future, I believe you will surely become the new peacock demon emperor and lead our peacock clan to new heights. It was precisely because of the celestial fox demon emperor and Appo's evaluation that I decided to make you my heir. But no matter how great your fortune, you still have to walk the path step by step, and your strength must be built through continuous accumulation. I will teach you the secret technique of our peacock demon clan that only females can cultivate. This is the true path to becoming a demon emperor. You must follow this path to succeed. Okay. Mei Gongzi nodded again. The peacock great demon king and Appo's words today had profoundly impacted her. She needed time to digest them, but no matter what, the primary purpose of this seclusion was to improve her cultivation. Take a rest first. I and Appo's go make preparations. We and Appo's start shortly. The peacock great demon king and Appo's figure flickered as he left the secret chamber. A thoughtful look appeared in Mei Gongzi and Appo's eyes. Gradually, she became a little lost in thought. She should have been in seclusion for a little over a year. She wondered what the outside world was like now. Over this year, her strength had improved significantly in all aspects. She wondered if Azura was still waiting for her at Kali Academy, and also little Tang. When she thought of little Tang, an unmistakable figure appeared in Mei Gongzi and Appo's mind. She found it strange herself. She didn't and Appo's know why, but every time Mei Gongzi saw Tang San, she naturally felt a kind of affection that seemed to come from the depths of her being. When she was with him, she felt unconditional trust, a sense of closeness she had only felt with her mother. Not even the father who had been meticulously teaching her had ever made her feel such familial warmth. She wondered how little Tang was doing now, whether he was still sweeping the grounds at Kali Academy. She had no idea how much longer her seclusion would last. At that moment, she heard the peacock great demon king and Appo's voice in her ear. Little Mei, come on. Okay. With a flash of silver light, Mei Gongzi also vanished into thin air. The news that the Shrek squad would fight again quickly spread throughout Kali City, especially among the human neighborhoods. In the last battle, the Shrek squad had surprisingly defeated the Sword Demon squad, which was beyond everyone in Appo's expectations. More importantly, the Shrek squad displayed strength that exceeded the imaginations of many spectators. However, they also suffered heavy injuries in that battle. Had they recovered in just over half a month? Were they ready to fight again? This was good news for humans. Regardless of how the fifth battle turned out, the fact that they scheduled it proved that the Shrek squad was in fighting shape. Thanks to the deliberate promotion on behalf of the arena, The hype for this team battle quickly turned it into a grand event. However, the arena chose to keep the identity of the Shrek Squad and Appo's opponents strictly confidential. The betting pool opened ahead of time for win-loss bets. Upon hearing this news, Wu Bingji wanted to participate in the betting, but Tang San stopped him. There was to be no gambling in the Shrek Squad. Tang San had his reasons. He didn't and Appo's want his companions to get into the habit of making money through gambling. Such habits could lead to addiction. Moreover, if they placed bets, the amounts would be significant, quickly attracting the attention of the Great Beast Fighting Arena officials. Winning once would lead to a second time in larger bets. They might face the arena and Appo's retaliation if they couldn't and Appo's control their desires to win more money. They aim to obtain noble status, not seek wealth and adventure here. Tang San successfully persuaded Wu Bingji. Before they left, he even left all his Naturi coins in the Golden Valley, instructing the Crimson Fox girls to give the money to the mayor if they didn't and Appo's return. Although everyone felt it was a bit ominous, they let him do it. Returning to the Great Beast Fighting Arena, the Shrek Squad entered discreetly as usual. They had somewhat gotten used to this place filled with the stench of blood. Wu Bingji, Chang Zicheng, and Gu Li, who had been severely injured, still felt a bit apprehensive, especially when recalling the scenes from the last battle. The previous night, Tang San had brought back news, informing them about the races of their opponents that day. That fifth battle would not be easy. Their opponents that day were from a powerful clan. The bloodthirsty demon ape had given Tang San a single word regarding the race information. Tigers. All 5 opponents were tigers. The tiger was the king of beasts, and among the demon clans, the tiger demons were naturally mighty. The White Tiger Demon Emperor had always been one of the top powerhouses among the demon clans, ruling over all tiger demons. There were also the formidable members of the Golden Tiger lineage. In addition, the Tiger clan had many branches, and all of them were strong. Even the weakest tiger demon clans had bloodlines no lower than the 3rd tier. Of course, even in a team composed of 5 tigers, the likelihood of there being a tiger demon with a golden bloodline was very low. Golden tigers considered themselves high nobility and Wuden and Appo's participate in such matches at the Great Beast Fighting Arena. They were nothing more than spectators. But there was no doubt their opponents would be powerful, likely more powerful than the previous Sword Demon Squad. With this in mind, Tang San made some tactical arrangements. When they arrived at the Great Beast Fighting Arena, it was not yet evening and it was still very bright outside, but the streets were already crowded, with humans specifically. Their fellow humans eagerly anticipated this match, and the discussions they overheard while passing by were almost all about the Shrek Squad. The Shrek Squad was now practically the pride of humanity. This was both motivation and pressure. Senior brother Dubai, you can use the 3rd array disc today, Tang San said to Dubai. Dubai and Appo's eyes lit up. Tang San had never let him use the 3rd array disc before, and in the previous battle, it Wuden and Appo's have been practical anyway. The Spirit Elevation Array would become unusable once the 3rd array disc was used due to inevitable conflicts. The Great Beast Fighting Arena. The host was already warming up the crowd. Today it and Appo's another full house. Many of our esteemed guests are here to see the Shrek Squad and whether they can continue their streak. This team has been creating miracles. Just when we think they can and Appo's compete against stronger opponents, they always manage to crush their foes and move forward, often using explosive tactics. So, who will they be facing today? I can tell you that this team has won 5 battles already and hasn't an Appo's appeared in our arena for some time. Actually, they have been staying in the arena for the past 3 days, so they also don an Appo's know who their opponents are today. But I believe this team will be a tough challenge for the Shrek Squad. In the face of absolute strength, all tactics are nothing more than paper tigers. 1. The betting is still open until the last moment before the match starts. Those who like to bet on battle duration can start now. Today and Appo's duration bet is in 3-minute units. I and Appo's LL share a little secret with you. I bet on the match ending within 6 minutes. So dear guests, you might want to consider how to place your bets. The audience immediately burst into laughter upon hearing the host and Appo's words. Bet on the opposite and you and Appo's LL get a villa by the sea. 2. The host scoffed. What an oppose. So great about the sea. Do you want to eat sea monsters every day? My choices are always solid. Laughter erupted again. Clearly, the host didn't and oppose. Have a good reputation in this regard. Alright, don't say I didn't warn you. The final countdown to the match starts now. The last 10 minutes of betting time quickly passed, signaling that the team battle was about to begin. 2 massive gates slowly rose, and the 5 members of the Shrek squad soon came into view again. Although they all wore masks, their figures and overall appearance still clearly showed that the Shrek squad had not changed members. It was still the original 5. Moreover, they seemed to have fully recovered from their injuries. The Shrek squad and Oppo's headshot captain, who had burned his bloodline, stood at the forefront. It seemed that the life force he had previously consumed had been restored. Of course, some treasures and remedies could restore life force and strengthen the body, but their prices were extremely high. This was why Tang San and Oppo's claim to the bloodthirsty demon ape that they had spent a lot of money on recovery was believable. For the humans who came to watch, seeing the complete Shrek squad excited them greatly. There were 1/3 more spectators compared to the previous match. However, when the audience and Oppo's eyes focused on the other gate, they couldn't and Oppo's help but gasp. The Shrek squad and Oppo's opponents were 5 males, each over 2.5 meters tall, with solid builds and fierce auras. Their most prominent feature was the large Wang 3 character on their foreheads. Their hair was black, the Wang character on their foreheads was black, and their exposed arms had black fur with yellow-brown stripes. They were infernal tigers, a branch of the tiger race with quasi-second-tier bloodlines. These tigers, also known as dark infernal tigers, were a somewhat solitary clan within the tiger race. They had violent temperaments, excelled in controlling the darkness element, and possessed formidable strength. They were the opposites of the golden tiger lineage, which excelled in light attributes, and even more so the white tiger lineage. Of course, without a demon emperor in their clan, they could never compete with the latter. However, this did not mean that infernal tigers were weak. On the contrary, they were truly formidable even compared to their tiger peers. Although their bloodline power was not as great as the golden tigers, it was not far off. This was why it was classified as quasi-second tier. Due to their violent temperament, infernal tigers frequently appeared in the great beast fighting arena. They were generally oppressed by the golden tigers, and they were not considered nobility. This made them discontent and consequently even more ferocious. Today, the Shrek squad was set to face such an infernal tiger squad, 1 9th order and 4 8th order infernal tigers. They had dark purple eyes, cold and cruel. They looked at the 5 members of the Shrek squad, who were much smaller in stature, with a predatory gaze. See that? See that? Now you know why I said you should bet on the 6-minute mark. It and Oppo's because today the Shrek squad will face the incredibly ruthless, brutal and formidable kings of beasts, the Infernal Tiger Squad. I believe the Infernal Tiger Squad can win within 6 minutes. No amount of skill can stand a chance against such overwhelming strength. The field abilities of the Infernal Tiger Squad completely counter the Shrek Squad. I bet on the Infernal Tiger Squad. The human spectators held their breath. The host had a point. Infernal tigers were truly strong. Among these 5 infernal tigers, there was even a 9th order one. They had achieved 5 consecutive victories, brutally tearing apart their opponents each time. They were notorious and were considered very likely to win 10 successive victories. No one expected the Shrek squad to face such opponents in their 5th match. However, they did not notice the expressions of the Shrek squad members. Of course, the masks obscured their faces, making it hard to see their expressions. The distance made their eyes even harder to discern. At this moment, Wu Bingji, Gu Li Dubai, and Cheng Zicheng were looking at Tang San with astonishment and bewilderment. The reason was simple. Just yesterday, when they learned their opponents would be tiger demons, Tang San analyzed the situation and told them that their opponents would likely be infernal tigers. And even if there were some members from different clans, infernal tigers would be the main force. Thus, the tactics they discussed the day before were primarily meant for dealing with precisely these infernal tigers. And now, the situation on the other side proved Tang San and Oppo's words. Were infernal tigers easy to deal with? Of course not. Not only did they possess powerful physical abilities, but all their attacks were imbued with the darkness element and had great corrosive power. Moreover, they were formidable on the mental level, capable of using various darkness-related skills, and their mid-range attacks were also quite terrifying. Especially with a Ninth Order leader, it could be said that this squad had practically no weaknesses. If not for the fact that the Infernal Tiger lineage lacked a demon emperor, it was uncertain who the true ruler of the tiger demons would be. As for why they couldn't produce a demon emperor, that was simply because infernal tigers were less intelligent than the golden tiger lineage. The host and Appo's high-pitched voice rang out. Both squads prepare. On the Shrek squad and Appo's side, Dubai took out an array disc and quickly activated it. Unlike the other two arrays, this one had a visible manifestation. Instantly, a faint golden light spread on the ground, transforming into an array of patterns that emitted golden rays. The eyes of the 5 members of the Shrek squad brightened. The 5 of them stood in a line. Wu Bingji in the front, Tang San in second position, Dubai third, Guli fourth, and Chang Ziqing at the back. They appeared as a unified whole. At the same time, on the opposite side, black currents rose from the 5 infernal tigers, creating a dense black cloud above their heads. The terrifying aura spread through the air, and under the large black canopy, the darkness element in the entire great beast fighting arena instantly became more concentrated. This was a special ability unique to the infernal tigers. Within the domain, the concentration of the darkness element increased. The degree of this increment naturally depended on the user's cultivation. At this moment, the darkness domain cast by 5 infernal tigers at the 8th order and above increased the concentration of the darkness element around them by at least 30%. More importantly, within the darkness domain, the overall combat power of the infernal tigers would increase significantly. This was the truly terrifying part. The only issue was that the darkness domain in Appo's coverage was limited, only a 30-meter radius around the infernal tiger casting it. Of course, maintaining the domain also consumed a large amount of their bloodline power. If one encountered an infernal tiger casting a darkness domain in the outside world, the first reaction should be to flee the battlefield. Fighting an infernal tiger within its darkness domain was no different from seeking death. But the limited space in the great beast fighting arena was perfect for the infernal tigers and Appo's darkness domain. This was the reason the infernal tiger squad was hailed as one of the teams most likely to achieve a 10-win streak. Their darkness domain made them almost invincible in the arena. As the black aura surged, the Shrek squad appeared insignificant under the massive pressure, like a looming dark cloud. Only the golden patterns provided by the array discs beneath them and the previously unseen formation they adopted appeared somewhat peculiar. "Begin!" the announcer shouted, declaring the start of the match. The 5 infernal tigers of the infernal tiger squad simultaneously let out a long roar toward the sky. The thrilling tiger roars echoed throughout the great beast fighting arena, causing spectators with lesser bloodlines to feel weak. This was the oppressive power of the king of beasts. The 5 infernal tigers, shrouded in the darkness domain, charged straight toward the Shrek squad. The terrifying aura rose instantly, and within the dense cloud of darkness element, a layer of purple-black light rippled around their bodies. "Unite!" Tang San shouted in a deep voice. In an instant, halos of different colors rose from the 5 members of the Shrek squad. Wu Bingji and Appo's was white, Tang San and Appo's was green, Dubai and Appo's was white, Guli and Appo's was a faint twisted white, and Chang Ziqing and Appo's was golden. The energy fluctuations brought by 5 different bloodlines surged forward, converging into Wu Bingji. The originally white halo around Wu Bingji instantly turned ice blue. His eyes gleamed with blue light, and his pupils appeared like 2 blue crystals. His aura also surged dramatically. At this moment, Wu Bingji felt the energy transmitted from behind him undergo a particular transformation and filtration, completely integrating into his bloodline. The vast bloodline power surged like a mighty river, instantly boosting his cultivation. Not only that, but his spiritual power also became immediately apparent and strong, and his perception surged. He even felt as if he had reached a unique critical point, sensing the call of another world. This was the power of the 3rd array disc, the Spirit Fusion Array. This was the power of the 5 of them merged into one. They waited until this battle to use this array disc because Dubai and Guli and Appo's cultivation was a bit weaker previously, making it difficult for them to integrate with their higher-level teammates. This significantly increased the chances of the spirit fusion array failing. This time, with everyone in Appo's cultivation levels improved and Wu Bingji and Appo's bloodline refined, they could better integrate their energy into the array disc. And thus, the spirit fusion array made its debut on the battlefield. Under the effect of this array, the 5 people and Appo's powers were combined into one. It was not a perfect integration, but even so, most of their bloodline power was poured into Wu Bingji. If Tang San were to lead the spirit fusion array, it would undoubtedly be a different story. However, he believed that Wu Bingji, who had considerably improved his control over the ice element as of late, could handle it well enough. More importantly, for Wu Bingji, this was a perfect training opportunity. Under the effect of the spirit fusion array, Wu Bingji and Appo's cultivation had reached the absolute peak of the 9th order, not just in terms of bloodline power but also spiritual power. This was even with Tang San holding back. Otherwise, his spiritual power alone would have been enough to propel Wu Bingji all the way to the peak of the 9th order. An ice-blue halo suddenly burst forth from Wu Bingji, making the great beast fighting arena, already filled with the darkness element, cold and unwelcoming as well. The ice element in the air quickly became rich and intense. Although he was facing 5 charging tigers, Wu Bingji looked like a war god, and there was not one shred of apprehension on his face. He raised his right hand, striking out into the void. Ice arrows formed almost instantly in the air and shot toward the infernal tigers like lightning. The ice arrows were silent but incredibly fast. The 5 infernal tigers naturally noticed the strange changes on the Shrek squad and Appo's side. The power of their domain suddenly converged upon them, merging with them. When the ice arrows entered the dark domain in Appo's range, they immediately began to show signs of corrosion. Their speed slowed, and the ice elemental energy decreased. But the ice arrows exploded at that moment, scattering ice shards everywhere. The powerful explosion caused the black mist in the dark domain to surge. The shockwave also significantly slowed down the charge of the 5 infernal tigers. Wu Bingji clasped his hands, and the ice elemental energy in the air quickly condensed in front of him. An azure ice spear formed almost instantly, engraved with strange patterns and radiating an incredibly cold aura. Seeing this scene, the audience in the stands held their breath. They had seen a similar ice spear in the previous Shrek squad battle. The Earth Demon Ox and Appo's mighty defense, bolstered by the support of the Blue Fox, had been completely unable to withstand it. Indeed, it was precisely the spear Wu Bingji condensed when he ignited his bloodline. He wasn't doing any such thing this time, yet the ice spear had formed almost instantly. Wu Bingji raised his head, his gaze almost instantly locking onto the 9th order infernal tiger opposite him. Light surged in his blue pupils, with a hint of purple gold flickering quietly within. The 9th order infernal tiger instantly felt a hair-raising sensation along its spine and released a low roar. It opened its mouth, spitting out a purple-black light orb made of darkness elemental energy that shot straight toward Wu Bingji. Simultaneously, the other 4 infernal tigers also spat out purple-black orbs. With the support of their domain, the orbs grew larger as they flew, heading straight for Wu Bingji. Wu Bingji grasped the ice spear he had just formed with his right hand. The ice blue light around him and the golden patterns beneath him surged violently. At that moment, although he faced an overwhelming dark onslaught, his back was straight and he stood proud. The 5 darkness orbs were about to reach him. At that moment, Wu Bingji finally moved, hurling the ice spear like a bolt of lightning. The 9th order darkness orb at the front was instantly pierced, and the trajectory of the ice spear shifted. It moved around in a strange pattern, piercing the 5 darkness orbs, which then all froze in place, only to explode a moment later after the ice spear shot through. The twisted flight of the ice spear was incredibly skillful. When the last darkness orb was pierced, the ice spear also exploded. The 9th order infernal tiger was now less than 30 meters from Wu Bingji. Just as it was about to accelerate and pounce, a chilling coldness had already reached it. It was a strange icicle, about a foot long and very translucent. In fact, it was almost invisible due to its speed. More terrifying was that its aura was completely concealed until it reached the 9th order infernal tiger. Only when it got close could the terrifying aura be felt. It was so fast that even the ninth order infernal tiger couldn't oppose to react in time. At the critical moment, a layer of purple-black light surged around it. At the same time, it barely shifted its torso, attempting to swipe at the giant icicle with its right arm. However, the speed of the icicle exceeded its expectations. The icicle pierced into its shoulder with a painful sound. Although it had managed to avoid being pierced through the heart, the infernal tiger still felt a chill throughout its body at that moment. The next moment, it fully mobilized its bloodline power toward its shoulder. However, the ice explosion was inevitable. Although the icicle melted somewhat under the protective darkness element, which also reinforced the tiger's defenses, the powerful explosion still caused the right shoulder of the ninth order infernal tiger to burst apart. At the same time, half of its body was frozen, and it fell directly to the ground, rolling forward due to the momentum of the charge. The power of this spear was astonishing. Although it had failed to kill the ninth order infernal tiger, its second acceleration and strong piercing ability had seriously injured it. The injury of the ninth order infernal tiger caused a significant collapse in the dark domain, and the other 4 eighth order infernal tigers also gave up on attacking, instead gathering around the ninth order one. Wu Bingji remained expressionless and once more grasped the air with his right hand. Another ice spear appeared, quickly transforming under the purified elemental power of his peak ninth order state. This is what it means to master ice. This was Wu Bingji and Appo's only thought at the moment. When the ninth order infernal tiger froze, the audience in the stands was in an uproar. No one expected the battle to turn out this way. Even those who had previously watched the Shrek Squad and Appo's matches Kuden and Appo's have imagined such a dramatic transformation in just a few days. This change was genuinely shocking. The previously unseen spirit fusion array disc had directly transformed the Shrek Squad. For all cultivators, the peak of the ninth order was vastly different from any other level of cultivation. That was because it was just one step away from godhood. It was almost impossible for someone at this level to participate in the great beast fighting arena, because they would be preparing to transcend and become gods. Who would waste their time in the arena? However, Wu Bingji and Appo's state had been elevated to the peak of the ninth order under the effect of the array disc. Although the bloodline of the opposing infernal tigers was truly mighty, their leader had only just entered the ninth order. Moreover, Wu Bingji had received instructions regarding cultivation and control of the ice element from a god king. Naturally, the infernal tiger had no such privilege. As the ice spear condensed again, Wu Bingji acted as if he didn't and Appo's to even see the other 4 eighth order infernal tigers. His focus remained locked on the ninth order infernal tiger. He knew that the victory would be secured if he took down the ninth order infernal tiger. With the purple demon eyes and Appo's locking ability, his ice spear Kuden and Appo's be dodged. At least the infernal tiger Kuden and Appo's manage it. The ninth order infernal tiger let out a crazed roar. The sudden injury had triggered its true ferocity. The dark domain surged violently, and black flame-like halos rippled from the 5 infernal tigers. A gigantic black tiger phantom emerged within the domain. The phantom was 15 meters long, with shoulder height exceeding 7 meters. The enormous black tiger frantically absorbed the dark power from the air to strengthen itself. This was the infernal tiger and Appo's trump card and the pinnacle display of its domain power. Summoning the dark infernal tiger, however, no one noticed that while they were summoning the dark infernal tiger, Dubai, who was positioned at the back of the Shrek Squad, had a subtle ripple of white around him. Something seemed to be stirring in the air. The dark infernal tiger let out an earth-shattering roar, and used its enormous body to enshroud the 5 infernal tigers. This dark infernal tiger exuded an aura at the peak of the ninth order, and it seemed to have energy even more powerful than that. The darkness element frantically dispelled the ice element in the air. But at that moment, the ninth order infernal tiger positioned at the center in order to perform the dark infernal tiger combination technique, suddenly felt a chill throughout its body. Although it had dispelled most of the cold, a sharp pain shot through its shoulder. In this state of pain, another cold wave entered its heart, causing it to palpitate. The dark infernal tiger, just about to take form, suddenly lost the crucial support of its main summoner's power. Its enormous body wavered, and the 4 8th Order Dark Infernal Tigers felt as if they had misapplied their strength. The coordination that had never once failed thus broke down, and the Dark Infernal Tiger exploded into a large cloud of black mist, rippling in the air. The 5 Infernal Tigers suffered the backlash, and all of them grunted simultaneously. The 9th Order Infernal Tiger spat out a mouthful of blood, its face full of disbelief. The gigantic Dark Infernal Tiger, which had initially filled the human audience with dread, vanished into thin air. It was like a black paper tiger. At that instant, Wu Bingji and Appo's second ice spear shot out like lightning, with unstoppable momentum and an icy aura. The 9th Order Dark Infernal Tiger didn't end Appo's dare to be careless. The black flames wrapping around it flared up even more intensely as it forcibly dissolved the remaining ice elemental energy within itself at all costs. It was burning its life force, causing its bloodline to erupt to the extreme. It had faced that spear once, and it understood perfectly well how terrifying it was. As it had 9th Order cultivation and a high-tier bloodline, it could also ignite its bloodline, just like Wu Bingji had done that day. In a desperate attempt, it swept at the ice spear with its claws. The ice spear exploded, but not because it had collided with the 9th Order Infernal Tiger. Instead, it exploded when it was still 15 meters away. For beams of cold light shot out from the exploding ice spear and almost instantly vanished. The 4 8th Order Infernal Tigers didn't end Appo's to even have time to react. Under secondary acceleration, the 4 icicles had already pierced through their eyes and penetrated their brains. Yes, this second ice spear did not target the 9th Order Infernal Tiger. It was a feint to mask its actual target. With peak 9th Order spiritual power, as well as the control over ice granted by a peak 9th Order cultivation, how could Wu Bingji's power be the same as before? Bang 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 bang. For heads exploded like fireworks. The 4 8th Order Infernal Tigers died simultaneously under the terrifying icicle penetration and detonation. With that, the Shrek squad added 4 more demon kills to their headshot record. The 9th Order Infernal Tiger, burning its life force for a full-strength attack, found its strike landing in space. It even saw the mocking expression on the opponent and Appo's face. In a moment, blood rushed to its head. It let out a frenzied roar and charged at Wu Bingji, ignoring the collapsing darkness domain. What awaited it were several thick ice walls rising from the ground. When the 7th ice wall shattered, the 9th Order Infernal Tiger and Appo's burning bloodline power finally ended, and its aura rapidly declined. An ice spear descended from the sky with a graceful parabolic trajectory, pinning it harshly to the ground. The announcer opened his mouth, but no words came out. Having watched the entire match from the stands, he wanted to say he had guessed correctly. The battle was indeed resolved within 6 minutes. However, the winning side was opposite to what he had predicted. Who could have imagined that the Shrek squad, which had struggled in their previous battle, would crush an objectively stronger opponent in this 5th match in under 5 minutes? From start to finish, only Wu Bingji had taken action. Despite being only of the 8th Order in cultivation, he unleashed the mighty strength of a peak 9th Order. His mastery of the ice spear and icicle reached an astonishing level. The headshot maniac once again completed a headshot, this time on the Infernal Tigers. The sharp-eyed spectators focused on the golden patterns on the ground in Dubai, who held the array disc. Through 5 team battles, the one who seemed the least combative appeared to be the real reason for this victory. They weren't and Appo's mistaken, but the spectators did not know that besides the Spirit Fusion Array, misfortune was also a crucial factor in deciding this battle. Misfortune struck when the Dark Infernal Tiger was forming, causing the 9th Order Infernal Tiger to misapply its strength, leading to the Dark Infernal Tiger's instant collapse. Their most potent technique didn't end Appo's to even get a chance to be fully executed, resulting in their swift defeat. The 6th Order Celestial Fox transformation, the 3-tailed Celestial Fox, was no longer useless on the battlefield. In this fight, it had played a critical role. The ease of this victory was so ridiculous that even the Shrek squad found it hard to believe. Wu Bingji and Appo's first reaction after killing the 9th Order Infernal Tiger was to look back at Tang San. He could hardly believe they had won just like that. Tang San gave him a slight nod. Wu Bingji had combined the hidden weapon techniques of the Tang sect with his elemental control, and had already achieved mastery. The spirit fusion array seemed powerful, but it was mainly because the opponent wasn't strong enough. No matter how great the spirit fusion array was, it couldn't elevate their power to the god level. So it seemed highly effective now, but as their cultivation improved, the effectiveness of the array would diminish. It would have been different if today and Oppo's opponents had included a peak 9th order expert. Moreover, it was due by and Oppo's ability to bestow misfortune that prevented the opponent from using their most powerful move. Without that, it would undoubtedly have been a tough battle. This seemingly easy victory was actually due to multiple factors. Of course, a win was a win, and this was the Shrek squad and Oppo's fifth. Cheers erupted from the human spectator area. Once again, humans had won, defeating a stronger opponent and showcasing even greater strength. How could they not be overjoyed? They truly saw hope for humanity. As they left the battlefield, the bloodthirsty demon ape was already waiting there. Its expression was more solemn than ever. Nodding to the 5 members of the Shrek squad, it said, "Please follow me." With that, it made a gesture of invitation and led the way inside. Tang San and his team followed behind it, not returning to the rest area as usual but heading deeper into the great beast fighting arena. "Where are you taking us?" Wu Bingji couldn't help but ask. The bloodthirsty demon ape stopped and said in a deep voice, "The arena master wants to meet you." Wu Bingji was about to say something more, but Tang San stopped him and said, "All right." The bloodthirsty demon ape continued forward, with Tang San and the others following behind. Wu Bingji gave Tang San a questioning look, his expression clearly showing some concern. Tang San gently shook his head, signaling him to stay calm. They walked for a considerable time, passing through a wide passageway. The area ahead suddenly opened up, revealing a luxurious hall. After passing through a corridor adorned with obviously valuable paintings, they finally stopped before an archway with double doors. The bloodthirsty demon ape signaled for them to wait a moment, then entered ahead. A moment later, it returned and gestured for Tang San and the others to follow. Led by the bloodthirsty demon ape, the 5 entered a lavishly decorated room. The room was large, over 500 square meters, with a 7-meter-high arch ceiling painted with various beast-fighting murals. The room and Oppo's primary colors were gold, white, and red, giving it a magnificent and luxurious appearance. Behind a large wooden table that emitted a faint fragrance stood a demon, with its back to them. It faced a window that overlooked the great beast fighting arena. Although the audience outside was still leaving, no sound could be heard inside, indicating excellent soundproofing. From the back, they could see that this demon had antlers as white as jade, marking it as a deer demon. Its luxurious attire and the place it stood made it clear that it was the master of this place. "Arena Master, I have brought them," the bloodthirsty demon ape said with great respect. "Yes, you may leave," a melodious voice responded. "Yes." The bloodthirsty demon ape bowed, then quickly walked out without looking at Tang San and the others again. The deer demon slowly turned to look at Tang San and his team. He had a handsome face and appeared to be middle-aged. His aura was restrained, but a faint divine light flowed in his eyes. There was a natural special charm about him. Tang San immediately recognized the man in Oppo's clan because he had once absorbed the bloodline of this clan, the Etherhorn deer. Moreover, this was an Etherhorn deer with god-level cultivation. The Etherhorn deers possess mighty spiritual power, and their discerning heart's gaze could see through elements. They had encountered such opponents in a previous team battle. An elemental stripping had caused Wu Bingji considerable trouble. They hadn't Oppo's expected the master of the great beast fighting arena to be an Etherhorn deer. "Welcome, please have a seat," the Etherhorn deer said with a smile, gesturing for them to sit. Tang San and his team sat down on the sofa. Apart from Tang San, the other 4 were wary, somewhat awkward, and unsure of what to do. The Etherhorn deer smiled and said, "Let me introduce myself. My name is Xianxia, and I am the patriarch of the Etherhorn deers. The great beast fighting arena in Kali City is not actually our clan and Oppo's property. Rather, we manage it on behalf of the city lord, the Etherhorn deer demon king." The words instantly rose in Tang San and Oppo's mind. So, the master of the great beast fighting arena was him. Tang San had heard that the Etherhorn Deer Clan and the Golden Deer Clan were the left and right arms of the Peacock Great Demon King. Despite Kali City and Apos' remote location, with the support of these two highly business-savvy deer demon clans, Kali City and Apos' economy flourished and the city was now very wealthy. Economically, Kali City had risen from the bottom to the middle ranks of the major cities, due in no small part to the efforts of the two deer demon kings, especially the Etherhorn deer lineage, which was exceptionally gifted in management. This clan produced the Rainbow Deer Demon Emperor, whose blood caused a bidding war at the recent Grand Auction. Etherhorn Deer King Ing Jie's gaze fell on Tang San, smiling as he said, "You must be the real leader of this small team, right?" With his keen observation, it was easy for him to discern who the true core of the Shrek squad was. This could be easily seen from the team members and Apos' eyes. Furthermore, in the last match, Tang San showcased his prowess by defeating the crested crane demon at the final moment. Tang San replied without directly answering, "I wonder why you invited us here." "Arena Master." The Etherhorn Deer King smiled and said, "Humans are always very clever, especially vassals who can cultivate to your level. You should know why I summoned you here." Tang San had said invite, but Ing Jie had changed it to summon, which already carried a clear sense of pressure. Tang San calmly said, "I only know that the Great Beast Fighting Arena is a very fair place, especially respectful to the warriors who participate. We just want to win, earn the prize money, and perhaps even gain noble status in the future. That and Apos, that's all we know." The other party exerted pressure while he pushed back, implying Aran and Apos. "To you known for fairness? Then be fair." Summoning them alone was hardly fair. Tang San and his teammates naturally guessed that this Etherhorn Deer King had called them here for the array discs. The spirit summoning array was one thing, but the teleportation array was enough to arouse envy. The spirit fusion array displayed today finally made it impossible for the Great Beast Fighting Arena to remain patient. The Etherhorn Deer King himself had to step in. The Etherhorn Deer King smiled and said, as the saying goes, "A common man might be innocent, but having a treasure makes him guilty. You should understand this principle. Moreover, the origins of some things are hard to explain. The authorities must investigate things of unknown origin. While the Great Beast Fighting Arena is fair, if the authorities in Kali City decide to investigate you, the Arena 1 and Apos be able to intervene." Tang San also smiled and said, "So, if we hand over all the array discs to you, Arena Master, the Great Beast Fighting Arena will be able to protect us?" The Etherhorn Deer King gave a reserved smile and said, "The Great Beast Fighting Arena should have that capability." "All right," Tang San agreed without hesitation, then turned to Dubai and said, "Senior brother, give them to me." Dubai gave him a look but still took out 3 array discs and handed them to Tang San. Tang San placed the 3 array discs on the Etherhorn Deer King and Apos' desk. "Can we leave now?" The Etherhorn Deer King and Apos' spiritual power was extremely strong. He immediately recognized the 3 array discs as genuine with just a glance. He couldn't and Apos' help but look at Tang San in surprise. The other party had handed them over so quickly, which was completely unexpected. "You and Apos, Regis giving them to me like that?" The Etherhorn Deer King asked. Tang San said, "There and Apos, a saying and Apos, a wise man adapts to the circumstances. Once since you mentioned the authorities might trouble us because of this, we naturally need to be smart. I assure you these are the only 3 array discs. You can have your subordinates search us to confirm. So after this please Don and Apos, bother us again. We just want to compete in peace." The Etherhorn Deer King smiled and nodded. "I will ensure they take care of you. It and Apos, it's always a pleasure to speak with clever humans. See them out." The door opened, and the bloodthirsty demon ape was already waiting outside. Tang San led his puzzled teammates out, collected their prize money under the guidance of the bloodthirsty demon ape, and then quickly left the Great Beast Fighting Arena. The Etherhorn Deer King picked up the 3 array discs and placed them in front of him, examining them individually. Soon his face showed a look of amazement. Each array disc was only palm-sized and engraved with intricate patterns. The energy pathways depicted were unlike anything he had ever seen. Creating an array with such miraculous effects on a small disc was truly remarkable. After examining the 3 array discs, he quickly realized he had made a mistake. He hadn't and Oppos. T asked the Shrek squad about their usage and origins. He had been very confident in himself. The other Horndeers were reputed to be one of the smartest demon clans, and he had great confidence in his divine consciousness and knowledge, priding himself on being well-versed. He thought that once the array discs were in his hands, he could uncover their secrets with a bit of inspection. However, he now realized that he had been overconfident. Not asking was a significant mistake. The intricacy of the arrays on the discs far exceeded anything he had ever seen. He couldn't and Oppos to even identify the material of the discs. It seemed to be a specially forged alloy, but he couldn't and Oppos to determine precisely what it was. He tried to use his divine consciousness to activate the array discs, but there was no effect. They clearly weren't something that could be deciphered quickly. No wonder that boy handed them over so readily. He was waiting for this. After leaving the great beast fighting arena, the Shrek squad quickly blended into the crowd. Novel Lunar logo. Novel Lunar. Home. Browse. Genres. Search novels. Login. Novel Lunar logo. Novel Lunar. Home. Latest updates. New novels. Completed. Ranking. Genres. Login. Soul Land 5. The Rebirth of Tang San. Chapter 328. Chapter 328. October 30th, 2025. Previous. 328. 1101. Next. Novel AI Studio explore our top 10,000 plus free novels. Tang San, why did you hand the discs over just like that? Wu Bingji Kuden and Oppos. T help but ask. Tang San smiled slightly and said if I didn't we probably wouldn't and Oppos T have gotten out of there. Just let them have the discs and wish them good luck. The mayor wouldn't and Oppos T have any business if my array discs were so easy to decipher, they would have been copied long ago. All the array discs are fail-closed. If they try to use the arrays forcibly or do anything to them, it will only damage the discs. The discs themselves are not all that expensive to make, so I don't really care about them. That's why I chose to just hand them over. But then what will we use in the next team battle? Do by Kuden and Oppos. T helped but express his worry. Tang San smirked. Next time if I and Oppos am not mistaken, our opponents will be easier to deal with. We can win even without the array discs. After all, without us they won and Oppos T be able to unlock the secrets of the array discs. When we come here to compete next time, they and Oppos LL come to us. Seeing his confident demeanor, the other four breathed a sigh of relief. Guli said, being taken to that arena owner today made me nervous. I thought they were going to harm us. Tang San shook his head. The other Horndeers are not inclined toward violence. They are business people. Business people value profit. Killing us Wooden and Oppos T benefit them, and they are very interested in benefiting from us. As long as we target this point, we Don and Oppos T have to fear what they might do to us. Wu Bingji asked, okay, but what about next time then? What if they force us to tell them how to use the discs? Then we tell them. The array discs were out during use in Can and Oppos T be used too many times anyway, and they cannot possibly expect us to know how they are made. We tell them what they want to know, and they have no reason to target us. As for the origin of the array discs, ISN and Oppos T that up to us to decide? Don't worry, they are not all that interested in dealing with us. What matters to them is establishing a connection with the array master behind us. Wu Bingji and Oppos S heart stirred as if he had grasped part of Tang San and Oppos S thinking. But the mayor said this thing is very important to us. Is it okay to let these arrays circulate in the demon world? Wu Bingji said hesitantly. Tang San said, originally I just wanted an outlet to make more money for the organization. However, since the organization started using the Godhood Ascension to threaten my master, I was already prepared to open other sales channels. We can develop on our own as well. From the Redemption Society and Oppos S attitude toward Zhang Haoshuan, Tang San knew that the organization and Oppos S true leaders had limited vision. No matter how much they were given, such entities would find it challenging to truly lead humanity to rise. Moreover, as the profits grew, the likelihood of negative changes also increased. That was the main reason Tang San did not and would not give Zhang Haoshuan other types of array discs to sell. As for the Great Beast Fighting Arena, he naturally had ways to deal with them. The Shrek squad won again, causing the humans in Cali City to celebrate. Especially since this battle seemed easily won, it heightened the people and Appo's expectations for the Shrek squad. The name of Shrek began to spread throughout Cali City. Of course, the Great Beast Fighting Arena was by far the biggest beneficiary. Given the Shrek squad and Appo's state, starting the 6th match soon was not a problem. However, Tang San did not do this. Instead, he took his teammates back to Golden Valley to continue their cultivation, arranging new tactics and guiding their progress overall. After another 5 days, Zhang Haoshuan finally returned, bringing all the materials from Tang San and Appo's list. Despite having already broken through to godhood, the mayor looked travel-worn, but the expression on his face clearly betrayed his excitement. A teleportation array. This was a teleportation array. The teammates continued cultivating, while Tang San and the mayor began working on the teleportation array together. The array was set up not far from the golden tree because it required a powerful and stable energy source for long-term use. Setting up this mid-range teleportation array was quite complex. It was actually not just one array but a cluster of interlinked arrays. Zhang Haoshuan used to think that he had some measure of understanding when it came to energy arrays, but he quickly realized he couldn't and Appo's understand what Tang San was doing. The intricate patterns of energy flow and the interlinked arrays left him dazzled. He was like a cat looking at a wall calendar. He could see everything clearly, yet the meaning eluded him. He frequently asked Tang San questions and Tang San answered them. However, Zhang Haoshuan felt that even with his spiritual power that had already evolved to divine consciousness, he still had trouble keeping up with Tang San and Appo's thought process. He could only understand some of the basic principles. Master, we only use basic materials for this array, so it will only work between here and the academy, and that's after we set up a paired array at the academy. There will be a disk for controlling the array. Whenever someone wants to use the teleportation array, the one who holds the disk will receive their information and approve the teleportation. Otherwise, the array will not activate. Also, we must get some spatial attribute gemstones to power the array. You must keep this strictly confidential. I'd say you should set up the other teleportation array at your residence and not tell the other teachers for now. Okay. Zhang Haoshuan nodded and smiled wryly. This teleportation array is much more complicated than I imagined. Tang San, can you tell me where you learned this? Tang San said, if I told you I figured it out myself, would you believe me? Zhang Haoshuan glared at him with narrowed eyes. Should I? The master and disciple looked at each other and laughed. Zhang Haoshuan sighed but didn't and Appo's ask further because he knew Tang San wouldn't and Appo's tell him. Perhaps he really was the savior sent by the heavens. Zhang Haoshuan always comforted himself with this thought. Setting up the teleportation array in Golden Valley took 7 days, and the one at Zhang Haoshuan and Appo's residence took 3 days. Since the main array was at Golden Valley, there was a possibility of setting up other paired arrays elsewhere, and teleporting to other places as well. Meanwhile, the teleportation array in Academy Town could only ever teleport people to Golden Valley, which made it comparatively straightforward. The construction of the teleportation array cost over 100 Naturi coins, and that was considering Tang San did it for free. If he had to be paid for his labor, the cost would skyrocket. The moment of nervous excitement had finally arrived. Looking at the enormous 15-meter diameter array next to the golden tree, Zhang Haoshuan and the members of the Shrek squad felt a sense of anticipation and eagerness. After such great efforts, the teleportation array was finally completed, and they were about to conduct the first test. According to Tang San, an ordinary person needed at least 9th-order spiritual power to use the teleportation array alone, and it took a 10th-order person with divine consciousness to bring others along. Only divine consciousness could ensure the stability of the teleportation array during transmission. With the strength of Zhang Haoshuan and Siru, they could transport up to 10 people at a time. This was the limit. Teleportation also required the consumption of spatial gemstones. Tang San standardized the processing of the spatial gemstones used for teleportation and made sure there would be sufficient reserves. Shall we begin? Zhang Haoshuan asked Tang San. Tang San nodded at him and said, let and Appo's begin. He took out a palm-sized array disc embedded with colorful gemstones. This was the core of the teleportation array. and it controlled the activation of the array. Golden light flickered, and the array disk in Tang San and Appo's hand emitted a gentle glow. Instantly, the entire array began to tremble slightly, and strange energy waves spread out, seemingly affecting the entire Golden Valley. Spatial fluctuations were very peculiar. The complexity of the space element was hard to understand, as it involved more than just energy changes. It had many mysterious aspects. Even the Peacock Demon Clan, who were naturally adept at sensing the space element, Kuden and Appo's fully grasped the mysteries of space. At this moment, the spatial fluctuations became intense within the complex array, and the entire area seemed to become unstable. Zhang Haoshuan signaled the others to move further away. If spatial tears appeared, ordinary people couldn't possibly survive. But at that moment, a strange change occurred. The initially chaotic spatial fluctuations started to display some regularity, and a closer look revealed that the changes in fluctuations corresponded to the changes in the patterns lighting up on the teleportation array. All the fluctuations became orderly and were confined to a specific range. Tang San said to Zhang Haoshuan, "Master, in a moment, use your divine consciousness to envelop us. Then enter the light gate of the teleportation array. Throughout the teleportation process, make sure your divine consciousness is stable. Remember, only use it to protect us. Do not probe outward to avoid being pulled by spatial forces." "All right." Zhang Haoshuan nodded thoughtfully. Tang San reminded him again, "Space is just too powerful. Do not try to probe it lightly, or it may cause your divine consciousness to be shattered. You can't recover from that ever." Yes, that makes sense," Zhang Haoshuan agreed once more. "Tang San, maybe I should try it alone. You Don and Appo's need to come with me." Zhang Haoshuan knew very well how terrifying the power of space was, and he was worried that if something went wrong. Tang San shook his head. "It and Appo's fine. Although our teleportation array ISN and Appo's very powerful and it's not stable enough for ordinary people to use, I don't think the two of us will have issues. Let and Appo's begin." His divine consciousness was recovering faster and faster, and Tang San was confident in the teleportation array he had created. He just wanted to accompany Zhang Haoshuan to ensure his master didn't and Appo's experience any mental or emotional fluctuations during his first teleportation. With Tang San and Appo's divine consciousness protecting them, there would be no problems. The array disk in Tang San and Appo's hand emitted a golden light as he spoke. The gentle glow became brighter, and layers of light within the array began to converge toward the center. Gradually, a 3-meter-tall, 2-meter-wide light gate began to take shape at the center of the array. The members of the Shrek squad held their breath at the sight. They had witnessed Tang San and Zhang Haoshuan setting up the teleportation array, and were somewhat skeptical about whether such an arrangement would really work. However, they realized their doubts were meaningless when the light gate appeared before them. Reality proved that they were really going in the right direction. Tang San nodded to Zhang Haoshuan. "Let and Appo's go." Zhang Haoshuan activated his divine consciousness, enveloping himself and Tang San in an invisible force. The two of them walked side by side into the light gate. As soon as they entered the light gate, Zhang Haoshuan immediately felt a dizzying sensation. Everything around them seemed to be spinning at that moment. The strange energy changes gave him an indescribable, marvelous feeling, but also made his heart tighten. "Keep your mind inward, do not probe outward." Tang San and Appo's voice echoed in Zhang Haoshuan and Appo's mind. He Kuden and Appo's helped but shudder, quickly abandoning the urge to explore the mysteries of the universe and focusing his attention inward. Suddenly, their bodies felt light for a brief moment, and all the surrounding distortions gradually faded away. Everything became clear. Zhang Haoshuan was astonished to find that he and Tang San were now in a familiar room. Wasn't and Appo's this his residence in Academy Town? The light gate behind them gradually faded away, and everything returned to normal. The array patterns under their feet shimmered brilliantly and then slowly dimmed. Tang San handed the array disk to Zhang Haoshuan and said, "Master, keep the array disk safe. You Don and Appo's need to worry about the valley. The array can draw energy from the golden tree. But here for each teleportation you and Appo's need to use a spatial gemstone. When we go to the ancestral court we and Appo's see if we can buy some higher energy gems to use multiple times." Zhang Haoshuan had not yet recovered from the shock of their first teleportation. Hearing this, he looked at Tang San and murmured, "This is truly amazing. It worked. Tang San, you really are." Tang San smiled slightly and said, "Don't worry too much. Maybe we and Appos LL create a teleportation array that can directly send us to the ancestral court in the future. As long as we have enough resources, it and Appos as possible." Zhang Haoshuan laughed heartily. Who knows, by then, humans might have already defeated the demons and nymphs and truly risen. Tang San didn't and Appos respond to this. How difficult would it be for humans to defeat the demon and nymph races? They were just too powerful. Even with Tang San and Appos help, and even assuming the demons and nymphs didn't and Appos hinder human development, it would still take hundreds or thousands of years for humanity as a whole to evolve. Undoubtedly, letting humans grow gradually seemed unlikely ever to surpass the demons and nymphs. Not to mention, even if Tang San regained his God King level cultivation, he would have to consider the balance of the world, and couldn't and Appos favor a single race. Of course, Tang San would not dampen Zhang Haoshuan and Appos enthusiasm now. He smiled and said, "We and Appos LL work hard together, and humans will always have a chance to rise. Master, I and Appos LL leave the array disk with you. You can try it again later. Testing is necessary, so Don and Appos be stingy with the resources. We must make sure that if anything happens, we can evacuate all students and teachers immediately." Zhang Haoshuan nodded. "No worries, I understand how to operate it now. A few more tests will do. Now I can finally relax. Before we go to the ancestral court, I and Appos LL teach this teleportation method to Siru so I can accompany you to the ancestral court with peace of mind. Yes, our progress in the great beast fighting arena should speed up. I will request the arena to schedule matches for us. The next two should be fairly easy to win," Tang San said with a smile. Zhang Haoshuan was taken aback. "You're that confident?" Tang San nodded slightly. He had already paid the price of 3 array discs, so how could he not be confident? The Great Beast Fighting Arena soon received a notification from the Shrek Squad that they wished to continue participating in the team battles. The arena was, of course, pleased to hear this. Although the Shrek Squad was not considered top tier in evaluations, the revenue they brought to the arena was undoubtedly the greatest. They had become the arena and Appos star team recently. Their popularity had soared, making them one of the hottest presences in Cali City. And naturally, in the eyes of humans, they were the human team. Nobody knew their identities, as the arena never revealed such things, and their faces were concealed by masks. Otherwise, they would have long since been worshipped as idols by every human being in Cali City. The date was quickly announced. The Shrek Squad and Appos' sixth match would take place in 2 days during evening prime time, with their opponents and Appos. Details temporarily kept secret. The Shrek Squad and Appos' popularity soared to new heights. When Tang San and his team arrived at the Great Beast Fighting Arena again, they were greeted by the same old bloodthirsty demon ape, who was now wearing a broad smile. It respectfully escorted them into the arena. Even their waiting room had been upgraded to a luxurious lounge. The treatment was worlds apart compared to before. "You received the information yesterday regarding your opponents for this round. Are you satisfied?" the bloodthirsty demon ape asked. Wu Bingji nodded and said, "We are ready." The bloodthirsty demon ape smiled. "That and Appos' good. After this match, our arena master would like to invite you to dinner. So do your best." Wu Bingji also smiled in response. "Then we won and Appos' hold back." After saying this, he glanced at Tang San subconsciously. Everything was as Tang San had predicted. Their opponents for the 6th match seemed to be a very strong team. But they were just the type that the Shrek Squad could counter. The opponents excelled in speed and frontal attacks but were not good at control. For the Shrek Squad, which excelled at control, this was not a significant challenge. Tang San looked at Wu Bingji, and Wu Bingji said to the bloodthirsty demon ape, "According to our analysis, we are confident that we can defeat our opponents within 3 minutes. The bloodthirsty demon ape and Appos' eyes lit up. "Really? Then I must congratulate you in advance. I and Appos' LL get busy and come back to escort you to the arena shortly." With that, he hurried away. Watching him leave, a faint smile appeared on Tang San and Appos' S face. It wasn't Appo's. Long before the bloodthirsty demon ape returned. The sixth match for the Shrek squad was about to begin. Wu Bingji still walked at the front. Among the Shrek squad, he remained the most popular. His nickname Headshot Maniac was already famous. The spotlight Tang San had gained in the fourth match had been overshadowed again by Wu Bingji and Appo's solo victory in the fifth. Of course, the miraculous array discs of the Shrek squad was also attracting increasing attention. The massive gates slowly opened, and the deafening cheers from outside roared like a tidal wave. The host and Appo's enthusiastic voice echoed through the great beast fighting arena. Today, a great battle is about to unfold, and it seems like the Shrek squad is in trouble. They will face the incredibly powerful Manic Lightning squad. Those who have seen the Manic Lightning squad fight know how terrifying they are. Their unbeatable speed means that even a teleportation array can't help their opponents too much. So regardless of the outcome, I expect this fight to be fast, intense, and absolutely damn thrilling. Of course, our Shrek Headshot squad is not to be underestimated. We all thought they'd kick the bucket, and yet here they are alive and kicking. I checked the bets for today and Appo's match, and although only 30% bet on the Shrek squad and Appo's victory, I hope we'll see another miracle. Indeed, although the Shrek squad was now a hot team, the proportion of people betting on their continued victory was surprisingly low. The reason was simple. The unity among humans provoked dissatisfaction among the demon spectators, who almost unanimously bet on the Shrek squad losing. Of course, since win-loss betting was not the standard in these cases, those bets were in the minority. Most spectators placed time bets in the brief period before the match started. The excitement of time betting significantly heightened their emotions. Well, in any case, even if the Shrek squad can win again, I believe this match will be tough. Actually, I think it'll take more than 10 minutes. So if you trust me, bet on more than 10 minutes in the Shrek squad and Appo's victory. It and Appo's a sure thing, the host declared confidently. Wu Bingji turned his head and whispered to Tang San, "What's he blabbering about?" Tang San shrugged. "I don't know what you expected. The host is here to mislead the audience. It and Appo's normal for him to say that. Otherwise, there would have been no point giving hints to that monkey. VIPs who Haven and Appo's place their bets. Hurry up. Our match is about to start." The host was still shouting, but by this time, Tang San and his team had already seen their opponents. Their 5 opponents today did not look easy to deal with. They were slender, not particularly tall, with a cold look in their eyes. Their wings fluttered lightly behind them, clearly indicating that they were flying demons. All 5 opponents were from the same clan, the Sky Rift Falcons, known for their incredible speed and ferocity. They were all at the 8th order, no 9th order among them. Moreover, they had only won 3 team battles thus far. In other words, Tang San and his team had finally received a favorable matchup from the arena. This was why Wu Bingji had expressed satisfaction to the bloodthirsty demon ape earlier. The cost of 3 array discs had finally earned them a manageable opponent. Bets were placed and soon the team battle officially began. The battle naturally had no suspense. The Sky Rift Falcons were formidable, but the problem was that time and luck were against them. When they couldn't and Appo's even control their own flying speed under the effects of Guli and Appo's abilities, the battle and Appo's outcome was obvious. In less than 3 minutes, Wu Bingji skewered the 5 Sky Rift Falcons, ending the battle. This finally made the host shut up. Indeed, just like he had hoped, a miracle had happened in the arena. With this, the Shrek squad secured their 6th team battle victory. Besides the customary cheers from the human bettors, the arena was filled mostly with cursing, most of it directed at the host. When the 5 members of the Shrek squad returned to the arena, the bloodthirsty demon ape was already waiting for them, his smile even more pronounced. He respectfully said, "Our arena master is waiting for you. Congratulations on your 6th victory. This is an unprecedented achievement for humans." Wu Bingji nodded slightly. "Please lead the way." It was the same luxurious room as last time. They once again met with the other horned-ear demon king, Tang Jia. He had his usual warm smile on his face, and he clapped his hands upon seeing them. "Impressive, truly impressive. I watched your match just now. You were powerful. It was an amazing victory. Congratulations." At least on the surface, The other horned deer demon king seemed sincere. Wu Bingji replied calmly, "You and Appos. Re too kind. Today and Appos' opponents were rather easy to deal with." As he spoke, he noticed the 3 array discs on the desk. They were in the same positions as when Tang San had placed them there, seemingly untouched. "I wonder what instructions you have for us, Arena Master?" Wu Bingji asked. The other horned deer demon king smiled and said, "Last time, you generously handed over the 3 array discs, and I Haven and Appos T had a chance to thank you. Today you achieved another swift victory, so I must extend my hospitality. Dinner is ready. Please follow me." As he spoke, he led the way to a side door, with the 5 members of the Shrek squad following. Wu Bingji and Appos' expression remained unchanged, but inwardly he couldn't and Appos T help but give Tang San a thumbs up. Everything was unfolding just as Tang San had predicted. The dining room was just as luxurious as the arena master's office, with a giant crystal chandelier emitting a mesmerizing glow. The maids were all voluptuous fox demons, and the table was laden with various delicious-looking dishes, mostly made from demon beast meat. Even the utensils were crafted from rare metals, exuding extreme luxury. The other horned deer demon king was alone on his side, personally hosting the Shrek squad. "Recently we received a rare ice rhinoceros, and that will be the highlight of our dinner. The horn of the ice rhinoceros has a cooling and soothing effect. The horn is ground into powder and cooked with various parts of its body. It offers the best flavor and great nourishment. Please have a taste." The ice rhinoceros was no ordinary beast. It was a tier higher than a winged tiger and extremely rare. Tang San didn't and Appos T know its price, but it was undoubtedly astronomical. With such delicacies, the Shrek squad naturally didn't and Appos T hold back and began to feast. Soon they felt a cooling energy gathering in their bodies. The energy was nourishing them and making them feel refreshed all over. Good ingredients indeed had excellent nourishing effects. For a race like the other horned deer demons, cultivating to godhood relying solely on their abilities and bloodline was challenging. Geniuses like the rainbow deer demon emperor were extremely rare. However, one thing this clan was not lacking in the slightest was wealth. Naturally, they could use any number of treasure plants and other such resources to elevate their own cultivation. The meal was immensely satisfying for the 5 members of the Shrek squad. In fact, for the first time since coming to this world, Tang San actually tasted a couple seasonings. They imparted unique flavors to the meat of the ice rhinoceros. "How is the meal?" the other horned deer demon king asked with a smile. He hadn't and Appos T eaten much himself, having consumed such rare ingredients countless times. For someone of his cultivation, these foods no longer helped much. Wu Bingji replied, "Very good. We have never tasted such delicious food before." The other horned deer demon king smiled broadly. "I and Appos I'm glad you liked it. By the way, I forgot to mention something last time. After you left the 3 array discs, I didn't an oppose. Compensate you. That was my oversight. Such precious items can an oppose. Be taken without proper payment. Oh, and another thing. Recently, there and oppose. Been an array disc on the market called the Spirit Summoning Array, which has a good effect in assisting cultivation. Have you heard of it? Wu Bingji blankly said, "What's that?" The other horned-ear demon king glanced at him and said, "These spirit summoning array discs are very popular, and their prices keep rising. They are worth around 50 Naturi coins, but even if you offer more, they're hard to find. Your 3 array discs are even more valuable and have never appeared on the market. I want an oppose. Take advantage of you. I and oppose. I'll pay you 100 Naturi coins per disc. What do you think?" Wu Bingji and Oppo's eyes lit up, and he was about to agree when Tang San gently nudged him. Then he heard Tang San say something that pained him greatly. "Arena Master, we Don and Oppo's need the money. We hope to win 10 matches and earn noble status," Tang San said. The other horned-ear demon king sighed. "If it were something I could do, it wouldn't and Oppo's be a problem. But you know, the Great Beast Fighting Arena is a fair place. And besides, you are humans. This makes things rather difficult." This wasn't an oppose, just empty talk from him. It wasn't that no humans could ever become nobles, but it was extremely complicated. The only straightforward way was to win in the arena. According to the rules of the Great Beast Fighting Arena, you must face the arena and Oppo's strongest opponents if you make it to the 10th match. That and Oppo's the rule. It and Oppo's not something I can decide. You must convince all the races in Kali City that you are worthy, the other horned-ear demon king said solemnly. Tang San said, "Then we would kindly ask you to ensure we reach the 10th match. We and Oppo's rely on our strength for that one. Is it possible?" They still had 4 matches ahead. If they couldn't and Oppo's ensure all 4 were against easy opponents, what about 3? Could 3 matches be guaranteed? The other horned-ear demon king looked deeply at him and said, "Since the array discs are valuable, they should naturally be paid for. As for the arrangements for the upcoming matches..." He waved his hand as he spoke, and soon 3 large trays were brought in. When the trays were placed before Tang San and his team, the atmosphere in the dining room instantly changed. The intense elemental fluctuations swept through, making the air feel thick. Each of the 3 trays held 100 Naturi coins, neatly stacked. The first tray contained all ice blue coins, indicating that they were of the ice attribute. Ice element Naturi coins Waren and Oppo's all that rare, but that didn't mean just anybody could casually bring out a full 100 of them. The second tray contained all green-blue coins, indicating the wind element. Clearly, the other horned-ear demon king had noticed that Wu Bingji and Tang San were the true leaders of their team, so the coins matched their attributes. The third tray had coins of various elements, looking somewhat mixed. There were 3 trays of Naturi coins, 300 in total. This was an enormous fortune that Tang San and his team had never seen before. Wu Bingji and Oppo's eyes were red as he looked at the Naturi coins and then at Tang San. "This is your deserved payment. So, please tell me how to use these 3 array discs. This exchange is fair, right?" The other horned-ear demon king said to Tang San and Wu Bingji. Tang San replied, "Very fair. However, Arena Master, we still value our lives more. So, about my earlier proposal, what do you think?" The other horned-ear demon king appeared thoughtful momentarily before saying, "What you mentioned is not impossible. If you can tell me where you got these 3 array discs..." "Hey, you finally said it." Indeed, as Tang San had expected, this was the true purpose of the other horned-ear demon king and Oppo's invitation. For the past few days, he had been researching the 3 array discs with his trusted subordinates, but the conclusions were disappointing. These array discs were far more complex than he had imagined, and that only meant one thing. Unless they knew the proper methods, the discs were useless. He who ties a knot ought to know how to untie it. Naturally, the Shrek squad had to know how to use the discs, and the other horned-ear demon king Wazn and Oppo's worried about persuading them. Since they had already handed over the discs, they had no reason not to reveal the usage method. It was just a matter of paying the right price. As for the right price, Actually, the price he mentioned for the spirit summoning array disc was false. On the market, a spirit summoning array disc in Appos' value had been inflated to 300 Naturi coins. When he said 50, he deliberately observed Tang San and Wu Bingji's expressions to see if they knew the actual value, and was pleased to find out that they didn't. Otherwise, they might just make him bleed money. Thus, he was entirely honest with his following words. Tang San's 3 array discs were indeed treasures that were not available on the market, and they were worth at least double the price of the spirit summoning array discs. The other Horned Deer Demon King did not notice any changes in the expressions of the Shrek squad members. Even though they wore masks, these masks only covered half of their faces. Their mouths were not concealed, and with his keen eyesight, he should have been able to notice even the slightest hint. Unfortunately, there were none. Compared to the method of using the 3 array discs, the origin of the 3 discs was undoubtedly the most important to the other Horned Deer Demon King. Since they were impossible to replicate, then he absolutely had to find out who had made them. Tang San hesitated momentarily before saying, "Your Excellency, to be honest, we aren't exactly sure about these 3 array discs. They were given to us by an old man we rescued by chance." He had expected this question, so he had already made up a plausible story. "An old man? A human?" the other Horned Deer Demon King asked. Tang San nodded and said, "Yes, a human. At that time he was injured very seriously. We happened to stumble upon him and we helped him heal his injuries. He said he had nothing to repay us with, so he gave us these 3 array discs." "Where is that old man now?" The other Horned Deer Demon King stared intently at Tang San, the spiritual power fluctuations in his eyes becoming noticeably stronger. Tang San and Appos' expression immediately became more wooden, and he spoke as if against his own will. "We Don and Appos' know where he went, but I believe he lives somewhere near the ancestral court. He mentioned that if we ever had the chance to go to the ancestral court, we might see him again." Ancestral court? Hearing Tang San and Appos' words, the other Horned Deer Demon King pondered deeply. Tang San and Appos' explanation was simple but made sense, considering they were ordinary human vassals. It was normal for them not to know. After all, the spirit summoning array disc originated from the ancestral court. A master of arrays in the ancestral court was Tang San's grand idea. It was actually rather plausible. If there was such a master of arrays, then what other organization was capable of working with them? The other Horned Deer Demon King Kuden and Appos' helped but ask, "Do you mean to say that if you go to the ancestral court there and Appos' a chance you might meet him again?" Tang San nodded and said, "After obtaining these 3 array discs, we realized their value. But we also knew that we Kuden and Appos' keep such precious items ourselves. The old man said that if we met again, he would give us more. Obviously we want to get some more, but we are human vassals and we are not allowed to go to the ancestral court. So we came to participate in the team battles, hoping that once we gain noble status, we could meet him again." The other Horned Deer Demon King pondered which faction this array master belonged to and under which powerful clan he was operating. The appearance of the spirit summoning array discs was quite sudden, but their effectiveness was immediately evident. According to the other Horned Deer Demon King and Appos' sources, these discs did not come from any specific demon clan but had somehow appeared directly on the market. This meant that it was also possible for the array master to be independent. Actually, many were searching for the origin of the spirit summoning array discs, but no clues had ever surfaced. Unexpectedly, the clue was now right in front of him. Seeing the other Horned Deer Demon King deep in thought, Tang San put on a confused expression and didn't say anything more. After a while, the other Horned Deer Demon King said, "Tell me how to use the array discs and then you can go back. You can continue participating in the competition afterward. Let me know if you have any news about that old man. There will certainly be benefits for you." He needed to carefully think about how to find the array master. He believed he now had an advantage over the various other entities who were searching for the same thing. At least he knew the array master was human and had a clue about contacting him. If he seized this opportunity, the benefits and business prospects would be immense, so he had to plan carefully. For the time being, however, he had to deal with the matters at hand. The 300 Naturi coins were handed to the Shrek squad. Dubai explained how to use the array discs, and the Etherhorn-Deer Demon King quickly mastered it thanks to his intelligence and divine consciousness. The usually calm eldest brother was still slightly excited when the five walked out of the great beast fighting arena. That was 300 Naturi coins. They had never seen so much money before. They had truly hit the jackpot this time. Tang San also gathered some information from Today and Appo's conversation with the Etherhorn-Deer Demon King. He had achieved his goal. He was not afraid that the Etherhorn-Deer Demon King would covet the array discs. Actually, he hoped that was the case, so he could plan future strategies around this. In addition, he now knew for sure that the following 3 battles would be doable, but the last one would be incredibly grueling. Winning without revealing their abilities would not be easy. This would be an important trial for the Shrek squad. However, he had already given the information to the Etherhorn-Deer Demon King. As long as the latter was interested in the non-existent array master, he would ensure their safety. They would have extra protection even if they went to the ancestral court. Even with his intelligence, the Etherhorn-Deer Demon King believed Tang San and Appo's words. The reason was simple. He fundamentally looked down on humans and subconsciously thought that ordinary human vassals Kuden and Appo's possibly possess such powerful array discs. Although the fictitious array master Tang San invented was also human, a human living in the ancestral court was a different matter altogether. Although Tang San did not know what kind of humans lived in the ancestral court, he believed that there had to be some, at any rate. After all, humans were known for their intelligence, and with such a large human population, it was impossible not to have a number of truly exceptional ones. There was always a chance for someone to be noticed and chosen by the ancestral court. In any case, Tang San was getting closer and closer to fulfilling his goals. They already had 6 victories in the arena, and they were inching closer and closer to nobility. Most importantly, he had successfully established a connection with the Etherhorn-Deer Demon King. This ensured they would face a lot fewer issues in Kali City, as well as when they embarked on the journey to the ancestral court. Of course, this connection would only last until they returned from the ancestral court, but it was not all that difficult to renew the partnership. As long as Tang San brought the Etherhorn-Deer Demon King 1 or 2 array discs from the master at the ancestral court, all would be fine. By that time, Mei Gongzi could well be exiting her seclusion. Naturally, reuniting with Mei Gongzi was what Tang San truly desired. In the following week, the Shrek squad participated in 3 more team battles, with each battle occurring after a day and Appo's rest. They won all 3 battles. Exactly as Tang San predicted, their opponents were either not strong enough, or just so happened to be countered by the Shrek squad's abilities, so they won without much danger. With 9 victories in 9 battles, they reached an unprecedented height in the Great Beast fighting arena. The bias within the Great Beast fighting arena allowed Tang San and his team to earn a lot, and they were now just 1 step away from becoming nobles. In Kali City, the Shrek squad and Appo's fame had spread to the point where even the Peacock Demon clan knew about them. They were extremely popular among humans. Wherever there were humans, discussions about the Shrek squad could be heard, showing their significance to the human population in Kali City. They had become a symbol of the human spirit. Now all humans were discussing the situation of the 10th battle, debating whether they could win the team battle and obtain the noble title. They even discussed their possible opponents, their tactics, and more. Meanwhile, however, the Shrek squad quietly vanished from the public eye. 9 battles, 9 victories. In the initial rounds, they relied on their skills, overcoming targeted strategies to defeat their opponents one after the other. In the later rounds, the secret assistance of the Etherhorn-Deer Demon King helped them. The Etherhorn-Deer Demon King had already made it clear to them that in the 10th match, they would face an opponent against whom they were not supposed to be able to win, and even the arena master himself could not show any favoritism. The appearance of a human team striving for 10 consecutive victories alarmed the Great Beast Fighting Arena headquarters, which was based in the ancestral court. Let alone for humans, even when a demon team was due for the 10th match, it had to be reported to the headquarters, and personnel from the headquarters would supervise the match to ensure no favoritism or fraud occurred. Therefore, the 10th match would be an absolutely fair fight. The only thing they could reveal was the identity of their opponent for the 10th match. Undoubtedly, this would not be an easy opponent for the Shrek squad to defeat. The Etherhorn Deer Demon King even secretly advised them not to participate in this match because their chances of winning were too low. If they wanted to go to the ancestral court, the Etherhorn Deer Demon King could think of other ways, such as having the Shrek squad disguise themselves as demons. He could also prepare the necessary identification and whatever else was necessary for them to travel unimpeded. But this proposal was rejected by the Shrek squad. Disguising themselves might allow them to enter the ancestral court, but could they participate in the auction? This plan involved too many inconveniences. Moreover, if they were discovered, they would all die, simple as that. What kind of place was the ancestral court? Not to mention other major figures, actual demon emperors lived there. If a top expert of that level so much as took a glance at them, not even the best disguise could save them. Tang San and his team were not going there for sightseeing but to acquire resources. They needed a perfectly legitimate identity and status to get what they wanted. Therefore, they had to win the 10th match no matter what. With that said, the Shrek squad did not set a specific time for it. They needed more preparation. The golden tree emitted an increasingly rich aura of life. It grew more and more every day. The dry branches planted by Tang San had turned into a beautiful tree over 5 meters tall now, with a lush canopy that brimmed with life energy. This was due to the spirit summoning array, but it also had much to do with the tree itself. The stronger the golden tree and Appo's life energy, the more spiritual energy of heaven and earth it could absorb. The array allowed it to gather spiritual energy faster, but it had nothing to do with the rate of absorption. This was entirely dependent on the tree itself. Although this valley in the Kali mountain range was not the most fertile place, it depended on what it was compared to. The life energy within these mountains was comparable to the Star Do forest, the most life-rich area in Tang San and Appo's previous life on the Douluo continent. Moreover, there Waren and Appo's many powerful demonic beasts in the Kali mountain range to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Thus, the vast mountain range had an almost endless supply of this rich spiritual energy, which was fundamental to the golden tree and Appo's evolution. Its growth was now just a matter of time, and it was going rather well. Under the golden tree, the 5 members of the Shrek squad and the Crimson Fox girls were all cultivating. As they were immersed in the rich life aura, their overall life force continuously improved, which allowed their bloodlines to be constantly purified and their bloodline power to grow. Although the Shrek squad could not achieve another qualitative leap in a short time, they could still feel their progress with each day of cultivation. Dubai, who had reached the 6th order and now had the 3-tailed celestial fox manifestation, was quite content and wanted for nothing else. Before Tang San arrived, even the 4th order of the celestial fox transformation seemed unattainable to him. But now he was already at the 6th order and he was still young. He wasn't in Appo's even 16 yet. To have a 3-tailed celestial fox form at such a young age was something that even geniuses in the celestial fox clan would find remarkable. Dubai didn't and Appo's have extravagant hopes of advancing to a higher order, and back in the day, he would have been more than pleased with his cultivation right now. The 6th order of the celestial fox transformation undoubtedly made him a highly valued member of the Redemption Society. However, right now, he believed in his little Tang. His dependence on Tang San only grew stronger by the day, and a major factor of this was precisely his higher cultivation. Thanks to the celestial fox vision, he was increasingly aware that having Tang San around was crucial to boosting his own fortune. As long as he followed Tang San, he would have no problem cultivating, as proven by the 3 breakthroughs he had already experienced. Therefore, among the Shrek squad, he had the greatest confidence in Tang San. After Wu Bingji recultivated back to the 8th order, he trained even more diligently. Several life and death struggles had given him new insights into both combat and his cultivation. The ice nymph bloodline within him had reached a new level of purity, and his understanding of the ice element was becoming increasingly profound. He had indeed begun to grasp the essence of ice. The eldest brother now had genuine confidence in reaching godhood, unlike before when he didn't and Appo's even dare to think about it. Cheng Zicheng had also made significant progress. Due to the setbacks she had been facing, she had realized her main issue. Even though she had a 2nd-tier golden bloodline, her human body had a critical weakness. It was simply not tough enough, preventing her from fully utilizing her bloodline power. Therefore, her training now focused on tempering her body. She didn't and oppose. T strive to break through to the 8th order prematurely, but instead aimed to stabilize her cultivation at the 7th order while improving her own physique. The life energy provided by the Golden Tree and the natural treasures within Golden Valley were the perfect resources for her training. Tang San formulated a complete regimen for her, detailing which treasure plants to use when she soaked in medicinal baths, what to eat, how to temper her body, and so forth. Tang San had ample experience in these areas. Although Chang Ziqing hadn't and oppose, T advanced much in her cultivation level recently, she could feel her body becoming much tougher than before. This allowed her bloodline power to integrate better with her physique, and she genuinely started to master the golden rock transformation. In contrast to her, Guli and Appo's recent training focused more on the spiritual aspect, and he made sure to consume natural treasures that enhanced spiritual power. Having broken through to the 7th order, his control over time became more precise, and his abilities improved in terms of both range and effect. Naturally, the foundation for this improvement was his increased spiritual power. Tang San also clearly told him that if he wanted to continue advancing, his spiritual power needed to reach the peak of the 9th order as soon as possible. This would effectively stimulate his bloodline power, speeding up the progression of the Chrono Croc transformation. He also needed to start genuinely comprehending the essence of time, and this was also reliant on his spiritual power. Through continuous combat in Tang San and Appo's guidance, the Shrek Squad improved by leaps and bounds. Training in Golden Valley was different from training at the Redemption Academy. There were other teachers and students at the academy, so Tang San couldn't and Appo's guide them too closely without exposing his own abilities. Here it was different. Zhang Haoshuan was busy comprehending the mysteries of the teleportation array every day. Even if he came to Golden Valley, he was focused on that and didn't and oppose interfere with Tang San. Moreover, the resources here were abundant. Under the guidance of Tang San, who knew how to choose, how to combine, and when to consume each particular herb and fruit, the effects of these natural treasures were displayed to the fullest. Barely 2 months had passed since they started the team battles, yet the individual strength of the Shrek Squad members had experienced a huge leap, and so had their teamwork. Tang San himself was steady and solid in his cultivation. He had by now elevated his Celestial Fox transformation and Chrono Croc transformation to the same level as his companions, and now that his cultivation of the Mysterious Heaven technique was at the 8th order, he was in no rush. He focused on enhancing both his physical body and spiritual power. He didn't and oppose need to consume many natural treasures because he could directly absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth purified and filtered by the Golden Tree. This spiritual energy was more effective in nourishing his body and sea of consciousness. The enhancement of his energy cultivation was not urgent, because the more he cultivated, the more Tang San realized that the levels of his bloodline imprints and his cultivation of the Mysterious Heaven technique were closely related. If he hadn't and oppose deliberately suppressed it, he would have already advanced to the 9th order. But this wasn't an oppose what he wanted. He needed to accumulate power and make sure everything was as solid as possible. Only he understood how difficult it would be to break through to the god level in the future. Another reason for his lack of a hurry was that he was waiting for his companions and oppose demonic god transformations to catch up. On the other hand, in terms of spiritual power, he was striving to improve with all his might. Having already reached the peak of the 9th order in spiritual cultivation, the spiritual power he now cultivated was naturally used to nourish his divine consciousness. This was not a conversion. Spiritual power did not transform into divine consciousness. It was a kind of nourishment. Undoubtedly, using spiritual power to nourish his divine consciousness consumed a lot, and the improvement speed of divine consciousness was very slow. It was not a cost-effective method by any means, but unfortunately, it was the only method. Without reaching the god level, divine consciousness couldn't and oppose be directly cultivated. In other words, if Tang San directly cultivated his divine consciousness, the planar ruler would immediately notice. At that point, becoming a god would be the least of his concerns. The plane would immediately try to crush him with full force. Therefore, he could only use this method to nourish his divine consciousness. Although it was slow, it worked and it could be done continuously. Now, the memories in Tang San and Appo's mind were becoming increasingly clear due to the stabilization and enhancement of his divine consciousness. When he reincarnated, his most profound memories were of his time with his wife. To prevent his weakened divine consciousness from affecting them, before reincarnating, he had placed these memories at the very core, and everything else on the outer layers. As a result, when he first reincarnated, some things, including cultivation techniques and the likes, were not very clear. He only remembered the most basic things. As his divine consciousness stabilized and recovered, his memories became clearer, including various experiences and powerful cognitive abilities of a god king. This was his greatest gain. No matter how much he cultivated the abilities of this plane, he could never surpass his former self. After all, in this world full of vast resources, a god king level being had never appeared. The birth of a god king was practically the greatest hope of all planes, because only in this way could an entire plane ascend to the god level. But the birth of a god king was an incredibly difficult task, close to impossible even. Countless powerful planes were stuck at this step, making enormous efforts to overcome it. Therefore, the best way for Tang San to dominate this world was to restore everything he once had, to regain his status as a god king. Even then, he couldn't oppose easily disrupt the balance of the entire plane, but he would certainly be invincible. Of course he wasn't oppose thinking about this now. He was far, far away from restoring his former realm. First, he had to worry about the colossal task of reaching the 10th order. In recent days, he had been continuously pondering how to achieve a breakthrough under the pressure of the entire plane. And the final conclusion was to coerce the plane into allowing his breakthrough. After the 9th match ended, they had been staying in Golden Valley for more than half a month, diligently working to make up for their shortcomings and enhance themselves. However, even in a place as suitable for cultivation as Golden Valley, improvement in their cultivation couldn't oppose happen overnight. It required continuous accumulation to sustain growth. Through the matches and the sale of the spirit summoning array discs, they now had a substantial fortune. Recently, Tang San had intentionally asked Zhang Haoshuan to reduce the supply of array discs, partly to raise prices and partly to express dissatisfaction toward the organization. Tang San and Appo's handling of Zhang Haoshuan and Appo's breakthrough to the god level revealed the internal shortcomings of the Redemption Society. Thus, the organization had urged Zhang Haoshuan multiple times recently to report to the headquarters. With that, going to the ancestral court was even more of a pressing task. Their 10th match had to be done. Sitting around the golden tree, Tang San looked at his companions with a faint smile on his face. "Are you all ready? This is the final match." Wu Bingji looked at Tang San, smiled slightly, and said, "As long as you think we and Appos ready, then we should be ready." Dubai laughed. "That and Appos right if you say it and Appos okay, it and Appos is okay." Cheng Zicheng glanced at her faintly golden skin, which seemed less fair than before, feeling slightly troubled. She stole a glance at Wu Bingji, wondering if her eldest brother liked the way she looked now. However, her strength had indeed increased significantly. Guli said, "My spiritual power seems to have reached a critical point and needs some stimulation. Let and Appos do it. We and Appos we gotten through 9 matches, it and Appos all down to this last one." Tang San nodded. "All right, everyone, get ready. Let and Appos follow our plan." A day later, news from the Great Beast fighting arena in Cali City seemed to set the entire city ablaze. The Shrek squad, who had already secured 9 team battle victories, were finally going to face their 10th challenge. Their opponents were also victorious in 9 team battles, and they were a particularly powerful and ferocious team. Would the 5 human warriors of the Shrek squad ascend to nobility in one fell swoop, or would they fall, rendering all their previous efforts in vain? This ultimate showdown would determine the answer. For a time, every corner of Cali City buzzed with discussions about this battle. Humans were almost unanimously optimistic about the Shrek squad and Appos' chances of winning. Whoever the opponent was and however strong, they were united and supportive in moments like these. After all, it was an exceedingly rare opportunity, even throughout their entire lifetimes, to see their kin emerge with such momentum. Though their hearts were tense, they were also filled with desire. They truly hoped that humans could reach greater heights. Perhaps, in the eyes of human slaves and lowly vassals, The rise of humanity and standing toe-to-toe with the demons and nymphs seemed impossible. They just hoped to see humans have a chance to become nobles. On the other hand, the ones with greater power and higher standing naturally harbored the desire to grow stronger and break free from the oppression of the demon and nymph races. The Great Beast Fighting Arena provided them with such an opportunity, allowing them to feel for the first time that it was possible for humans to contend with the powerful demons. For this battle, tickets were hard to come by. The prices had tripled, yet demand still exceeded supply. Nearly all major nobles in Cali City wanted to watch this exceedingly rare showdown in the Great Beast Fighting Arena. Novel Lunar logo. Novel Lunar. Home. Browse. Genres. Search novels. Login. Novel Lunar logo. Novel Lunar. Home. Latest updates. New novels. Completed. Ranking. Genres. Login. / Soul Land 5. The Rebirth of Tang San. / Chapter 335. Chapter 335. October 30th, 2025. Previous. 335. / 1101. Next. Novel AI Studio explore our top 10, 000 plus free novels. The match would take place in 3 days, as they awaited the arrival of supervisors sent from the ancestral court to ensure fairness. After all, for humans to achieve 9 victories was an astonishing feat, and it naturally raised suspicions. In these 3 days, almost everyone in the streets and alleys was discussing the same thing. Occasionally, one could even hear shouts of excitement. In contrast to the humans, the demon clans almost unanimously believed that it was impossible for humans to win. They subconsciously felt that humans Wooden and Appos be allowed to become nobles just like that. Moreover, the team that the Shrek squad was about to face was much more popular, even considered likely to win in the Ancestral Court and Appos' competitions. Therefore, in 3 days the betting pool had reached an astonishing amount. Bets on the Demon Clan team winning were clearly in the lead. After all, the wealth in human hands was very limited. Even though the previous victories of the Shrek squad had earned them a lot, it was nothing but a drop in the ocean compared to the wealth of the Demon Clan nobles. But for some reason, a large number of bets suddenly poured in for the Shrek squad, which allowed the odds to stabilize somewhat. This prompted the major nobles, who were planning to place more bets on the time-based bets for excitement, to immediately invest more in the win-lose bets, bringing the odds to 1:5. In other words, if the Shrek squad won, the payout would be 5 times the bet. Even before the match began, humans were already at an absolute disadvantage in the betting pools. Some more rational humans even advised their companions not to get their hopes up too high. After all, it was incredibly difficult for humans to obtain a noble status. In such circumstances, the atmosphere around the Great Beast Fighting Arena grew increasingly tense. For several days, spectators coming to the arena were particularly excited, causing the arena and Appos' profits to surge and earning it a fortune. And finally the day arrived. As Tang San and his team stepped into the Great Beast Fighting Arena, they could vaguely sense that today was different from usual. They heard that since early morning, the surroundings of the arena had been packed with people. The city lord and Appos' mansion had sent personnel to maintain order. Tang San and his companions, wearing hooded cloaks, managed to squeeze near the arena. They then quietly put on their masks and identified themselves to the arena guards, who finally let them in. And then they felt it. The 5 of them could clearly sense it. The atmosphere of murderous intent created an invisible pressure, causing even the usually lively Dubai to be somewhat subdued. At the same time as they pushed through the crowd, they could see many humans with red eyes, some of them hysterically excited. Among them were certainly gamblers, but more were filled with anticipation. They longed for a truly epic-making victory for humanity. But could such a victory really be achieved? No one knew. Moreover, the possibility of victory seemed to diminish as more official information was released. Yet, despite this, humans were unwilling to give up even the slightest hope. They had been longing for such a day for many, many years. The only one who wasn't an Appos' nervous was probably Tang San. He wasn't an Appos' just calm, he even felt a bit excited. This feeling hadn't Appos' surfaced for a long time, at least not since Mei Gongzi went into seclusion. Perhaps human cohesion would truly begin with this battle. The Redemption Society and Appos' greatest hope was to make Kali City the human stronghold, which was why they spared no effort in supporting Mei Gongzi to become the future city lord of Kali City. Even knowing the chances were slim, they still fought hard. So, for Mei Gongzi and for humanity, they had to do this and they had to win. The bloodthirsty demon ape had been waiting there for a long time. Seeing the arrival of Tang San and his team, it solemnly greeted them and led them to the waiting lounge. Closing the door behind it, the bloodthirsty demon ape spoke in a deep voice, "On behalf of the arena master I and Appos, I'll ask you one last time. Do you really want to participate in this final match? There and Appos, still time to regret it. After all, you only have one life. If you forfeit the match, the worst that will happen is a tarnished reputation. No one has seen your faces under the mask, so you can still live well. Winning 9 team matches is already a historical record for humans." Wu Bingji calmly replied, "At this point, there is no way we will retreat. If we die, we die, but we will die fighting. You said it yourself. This has never happened before. This is the first time humans have had hope. If we die fighting, then they will keep hoping, but if we run away, everything we did will have been for nothing. You're not human, so you don't understand, but this hope is all that lets many of us keep living." The bloodthirsty demon ape gave him a deep look and said, "Since that and Appos the case, I won and Appos say anything more. Although we are not of the same race, I respect you for this. Prepare yourselves." With that, it turned and left the room. Today and Appos bloodthirsty demon ape was clearly less respectful yet more concerned than in previous matches. Obviously, it didn't and Appos believed the Shrek squad could create a miracle. What it said today was sincere. It genuinely didn't and Appos want the Shrek squad to continue competing. However, Wu Bingji and Appos words truly earned its admiration. Wu Bingji turned to the other 4 and said, "I said what I said. Today we might die. If any of you want to back out now, it and Appos okay, there and Appos still time. As long as one of us competes, it means the Shrek squad is still there and humanity has an Appos fallen." Guli and Appos eyes were bright as he smiled and said, "Eldest brother, when we first got here I was really nervous. Just like in the first match, I was truly nervous. Everyone is afraid of death and I and Appos am no exception. But you and Appos rewrite, we are not just here for ourselves, we are here for everyone. So what if we die? Birds fly and people perish, that's the way of nature. And if we Dawn and Appos die will live 1,000 years. Let and Appos do it." His nervousness disappeared, and it seemed as if flames were burning in his eyes. Cheng Ziqing stood up and slowly walked to Wu Bingji. Looking at her, Wu Bingji and Appos gaze softened. "Ziqing, this is a matter for men to deal with. You really shouldn't and Appos." Cheng Ziqing walked up to him and put her hand on his mouth. "Dawn and Appos be such a chauvinist. I like it when you act manly, you look really cool, but you should listen to your own words. We are here for the sake of humanity. And women are no less human than men, so why should you be the ones to bear the whole burden? I can do it just as well as you can, and it's my duty just like it is yours. Also, eldest brother, I just want to tell you something personal. Can you come over with me for a moment?" Wu Bingji was taken aback. Dubai chuckled at the corny scene. "What personal talk, Zicheng? Dawn and Appos go around planting red flags here. Let me tell you, I and Appos calculated it. Today our luck will be excellent." Cheng Zicheng gave him a fierce glare before turning back to Wu Bingji, grabbing his sleeve, and looking at him with a pleading gaze. Wu Bingji took a deep breath, then suddenly opened his arms and pulled her into a tight embrace. This scene stunned Guli and Dubai, and even Tang San was taken aback. Who among them didn't and Appos know about Cheng Zicheng and Appos feelings for Wu Bingji? Wu Bingji kept a deliberate distance from her, never giving her any chance. Who would have thought that the eldest brother would give such a startling hug at this moment? Cheng Zicheng and Appos mind went blank. The eldest brother and Appos broad and warm embrace, his strong arms, and his unique scent all made her lose the ability to think. Then she heard Wu Bingji and Appos voice echoing in her ear. "Zicheng, Dawn and Appos say anything. After the match, when we and Appos won, you can tell me. I and Appos I'll listen to you slowly then. We will have plenty of time to talk, okay?" Wu Bingji released her from his embrace as he spoke, smiling at Chang Zicheng. Dubai is right. At a time we can and oppose. T jinx it. Chang Zicheng felt dizzy, her face turning bright red. She sneaked a glance at Wu Bingji and vigorously nodded. Wu Bingji turned to Tang San. Tang San, do you have any instructions for us? Tang San smiled. Nothing. Today I will be the captain. He stood up, still smiling, and his gaze swept over his four companions. Today I will give it my all. At these words, the eyes of Wu Bingji and the other three lit up. They still didn't know exactly how strong Tang San was, but his promise to give this battle his best instilled more confidence than any other words could. Tang San extended his right hand, and Wu Bingji placed his hand on top, followed by Chang Zicheng, Dubai, and Gu Li. 5 hands stacked together. Tang San and Appo's smile deepened as he remembered a phrase he had cried out countless times in his previous life, a phrase imprinted in the depths of his soul. He suddenly roared, Shrek! Victory! Shrek! Victory! The 5 shouted in unison. Due to the overcrowding in the Great Beast fighting arena, today and Appo's admission started an hour earlier to allow ticket holders to enter on time and ensure order. Inside the arena it was already packed. However, today and Appo's human audience was much smaller than for previous matches. It wasn't an Appo's that humans didn't an Appo's want to watch this most crucial showdown. It was simply that ticket prices were exorbitant. Due to the nobles and Appo's deliberate price inflation, few humans could afford the tickets. On the stands, several teachers from the Redemption Academy were present. Led by Mayor Zhang Haoshuan, Si Ru, Guanlongjiang, Muanqing, and Mu Yunyu were all there. With Zhang Haoshuan and Appo's current financial capability, buying tickets was no problem. Around them were about 20 other human spectators, all vassals holding some status within their respective ruler clans. This represented the entirety of today and Appo's human audience. Mu Yunyu nervously clenched her fists, biting her lower lip. She was genuinely unsure of what the outcome of today and Appo's battle would be. All the information she had heard was unfavorable for the Shrek squad. She originally didn't and Appo's want to come to this match, but she was here nonetheless. She couldn't and Appo's abandon those children. When Tang San and the others disappeared earlier, Zhang Haoshuan told them they were undergoing special training. And to prove the teacher's initial skepticism wrong, they had secured 9 consecutive victories. As members of the Redemption Society, the teachers felt unprecedented cohesion among the humans in Kali City. Everyone was united in praying for the Shrek squad and Appo's continuous victories. The more this happened, the more they felt the immense pressure. This match was already historic for humans, a historic attempt to achieve noble status. But if they lost and died on the battlefield, it would undoubtedly be a massive loss for the Redemption Society. No one questioned why Zhang Haoshuan hadn't stopped them. Those questions had been asked long before they arrived. Guanlongjiang hadn't and Appo's spoken to Zhang Haoshuan for several days, and even now, he still wore a stern face. Si Ru and Appo's expression was relatively calm as he sat next to Zhang Haoshuan. He always maintained a faint smile. Muanqing took a deep breath and turned to Zhang Haoshuan. Mayor, are you really confident? Zhang Haoshuan glanced at him and said, even if we aren't in Appo's confident, do you think we can back out now? Muanqing and Appo's lips twitched slightly. Indeed, at this point nothing could be done. Both sides would soon enter the arena, and this battle was inevitable. Moreover, it was a real fight to the death. Since we and Appo's here let and Appo's settle in and not be anxious. When have you ever seen old Zhang do something he wasn't an Appo's confident about? Siru smiled. These words eased the tension of the other teachers a bit. Indeed, Zhang Haoshuan was known for his steadiness. Otherwise, he wouldn't and Appo's have become the principal of Redemption Academy. Someone with higher cultivation would have been chosen instead, like Siru. Zhang Haoshuan remained silent but thought to himself, my confidence is only valid when it comes to things within my control. That boy has long been out of my control. I just have faith in him as a person. The massive gates on one side opened as the teachers spoke, and the Shrek squad entered the Great Beast fighting arena. Wu Bingji still led at the front, followed by Tang San, Gu Li Dubai and Cheng Zicheng. Despite Tang San declaring himself the captain, they didn't and oppose. T changed their formation. The opponents must have studied the Shrek squad's tactics, and a sudden change in formation was bound to alert them. As the gates on the opposite side of the Shrek squad slowly opened and their 5 opponents appeared on the battlefield, almost all the demon spectators erupted into deafening cheers. Among the 5 demons on the opposite side, the one in the center was a sturdy figure about 2.5 meters tall. He looked surprisingly similar to a human, with short golden hair that seemed to flutter even though there was no wind, a handsome yet stern and cold face, and crow and Appo's feet at the corners of his eyes, indicating he was past his youth. Its body was muscular and well-proportioned. He held a large sword that it planted into the ground before him, his slightly bloodshot eyes scanning the Shrek squad. Despite knowing his identity in advance, seeing him in person still made everyone in the Shrek squad, except Tang San, feel a chill in their hearts. This figure was indeed famous in the great beast fighting arena. How could his reputation be described? When Tang San attended the grand auction, he saw a powerful one-eyed demon, a peak 9th Order powerhouse named Yushi, known as the Slaughter Maniac. Tang San had once considered challenging that powerful one-eyed demon in the future, as he genuinely detested the guy. About a month ago, that arrogant one-eyed demon was killed, and the one who killed him in a one-on-one fight was this very figure before them. He had no name, or at least he didn't and oppose T reveal it. In the great beast fighting arena, he was known only by his moniker, Lion Tiger Sword Saint. Yes, Lion Tiger. 2 bloodlines flowed within it, both golden bloodlines, the Golden Lion and the Golden Tiger bloodline. His physique didn't and oppose T seem as robust as either the Golden Lions or Golden Tigers, but the explosive power contained within his body surpassed both these clans. His bloodline wasn't quite first tier, but it was at the very pinnacle among second tier ones. Due to the low genetic compatibility, the chance of offspring being born between the lion demon race and the tiger demon race was only 2%. And of that 2%, 9 out of 10 died due to congenital conditions. Survivors who possessed both bloodlines were scarce. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint before them was one of those rare survivors. However, having both bloodlines made him an outcast in both golden clans. He was not accepted by either. Rather, he was rejected and called a half-breed. As he matured, his heart was constantly filled with hatred. Yet it was precisely this hatred that allowed him to trudge on, step by step. Thus, he came to the great beast fighting arena. His cultivation was only at the 7th order when he first arrived at the great beast fighting arena. He spent a year achieving 100 consecutive victories in solo beast fights, earning a noble title. His cultivation then reached the peak of the 9th order. He was a true undefeated warrior, carving out a legend with his heavy sword and his powerful dual golden bloodlines. According to the Golden Lion and Golden Tiger clans, if he achieved godhood in the future, he would quickly rise and might even have the potential to become a demon emperor. So, the 2 golden clans that once rejected him now tried to win him back. However, the Lion Tiger Sword Saint despised them. He harbored only hatred for the clans that had given him his bloodlines. He preferred to stay in the great beast fighting arena, accumulating cultivation resources through continuous battles and competitions, rather than returning to those clans. He chose to prove everything through slaughter, to achieve his path through killing, and he disdained his blood relatives. From a young age, the Lion Tiger Sword Saint had understood that he could only rely on himself and his own strength. All who stood against him would die at his hand, and this was Yushi's fate as well. He provoked the Lion Tiger Sword Saint and ended up slashed in half. However, the great beast fighting arena was becoming less and less beneficial for his advancement. Having reached the peak of the 9th order, he was invincible here. His dual bloodlines, although powerful, proved to be an impediment as well. They created a bloodline barrier within him, making it extremely difficult to break through to godhood. It had been over a year since he reached the peak of the 9th order, and despite constant battles, he had made no further progress. The Great Beast Fighting Arena suggested that team battles would provide a more substantial stimulus, so he agreed to participate in team battles. The arena arranged several strong fighters to team up with him. They achieved 9 consecutive victories almost effortlessly. However, the Lion Tiger Sword Saint was dissatisfied. These team battles offered no opportunity for advancement, and he realized that he had become a money-making tool for the arena. Today was his last planned battle in the Great Beast fighting arena. After this fight, he would receive a large sum of money, and combined with his noble status, he could go anywhere in the world. He was preparing to seek opportunities for further breakthroughs. The information the Shrek squad obtained described the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint as a mighty lion-tiger demon, an unprecedentedly terrifying entity. Even among his Ninth Order peers, he was a true powerhouse that even demons with first-tier bloodlines would struggle to defeat. He was battle-hardened and proud. In his eyes, the only way was forward. Yes, he was proud. He disdained coordinating with his so-called teammates in all the team battles he faced. He often relied on his heavy sword to end the battles within moments. Thus, all the cheers from the stands were almost entirely for this undefeated warrior. Despite being a noble, he continued honing himself in the Great Beast fighting arena, earning the title of the strongest below godhood. The Lion-Tiger Sword Saint and Appo's teammates were not weak either. Although overshadowed by their captain and Appo's brilliance, those who could team up with the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint were not ordinary. Moreover, the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint and Appo's four teammates shared a common trait. They were all illegitimate children from major clans. Yes, illegitimate children. In the noble clans of the demon races, illegitimate children were not eligible for noble status. This was a regulation set by the ancestral court and a measure taken by the major demon clans to maintain the purity of their bloodlines. Therefore, some powerful demon clans devised unique methods to enable their illegitimate offspring to gain noble status. Collaborating with the Great Beast fighting arena was the quickest and most direct way. 10 team battle victories could earn noble status. How swift was that? Theoretically, one could obtain noble status in 10 days. Thus, when top-tier fighters appeared in the Great Beast fighting arena, the arena would offer them deals. They could be part of a team led by a top expert, secure victories, and earn themselves a title, all for the appropriate price. This was within the rules but carried risks, including death. Therefore, those wishing to gain noble status through this method needed a certain level of competence. The Lion-Tiger Sword Saint and Appo's four teammates had all gained their positions this way. The other Horndeer Demon King held the Shrek squad in high regard. Therefore, when selecting their opponents, he specifically asked them whether they preferred to face a team led by the mighty Lion-Tiger Sword Saint or a well-coordinated team with equally strong members. The latter obviously Kuden and Appo's have a fighter as outstanding as the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint, but their coordination would be troublesome. The biggest issue with the former was that the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint had never had a problem wiping out an entire team alone. Tang San chose the former. Thus, the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint appeared before them. His 4 teammates were also strong, 3 were at the 8th Order, and 1 was at the early 9th Order. They were all from different races. The cheers were deafening, all for the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint. The Lion-Tiger Sword Saint had countless fans in the Great Beast fighting arena. He was even considered the most desirable match for young women of both the Lion and Tiger clans. The Lion-Tiger Sword Saint ignored the cheers, glancing silently at the opponents before slowly closing his eyes. To him it didn't an Appo's matter who the opponents were. Defeating and killing them was all that mattered. Then, he would continue on his path. His thoughts had already flown out of Kali City into the outside world. He constantly searched for a path to godhood and believed he would find it. He wanted to prove to the 2 golden clans that he, a hybrid, was far stronger than their so-called pure-blooded members. He intended to repay all the insults of his childhood one by one. The 2 golden clans and Appo's attempts to win him over were laughable to him. They tried to remind him that he was a member of the clan, not knowing that the only thing he felt for them was loathing rather than belonging. Alright everyone, it's time for today in Appo's grand showdown. Surely everyone has been anticipating this for a long time. One side is destined to rise in today in Appo's battle, while the other's destination is dust. The Shrek squad is hailed as the hope of humanity and has fought its way through 9 battles, stepping over the bodies of many strong enemies. Now they stand on this 10th and final battleground. And the unbeatable squad, yes, our very own unbeatable squad, is also here to continue its string of victories. The Lion-Tiger Sword Saint, unbeatable, by the end of his introduction, The commentator was shouting frantically, "So, I believe the unbeatable squad will win this battle. Dear guests, what are you waiting for? 3 minutes, I think it will only take 3 minutes for our great lion tiger sword saint to effortlessly chop down all those clowns. The match will be over within 3 minutes, guaranteed. Place your bets now. And to those foolish humans betting on the Shrek squad, my condolences. Vassals will always remain vassals." The discriminatory remarks yelled by the host's shrill voice filled the great beast fighting arena and spread outside. Outside the arena, countless shouting voices rose. These were sounds of anger and resistance, filled with a mixture of hope, worry, and fear. The shouts of countless humans. Inside the arena, the demons were already in an uproar. Due to the host and Oppo's hysterical shouts, countless bets were placed that the battle would end within 3 minutes. These guaranteed bets instantly increased the total betting amount. The host and Oppo's lips curled into a smile. Its goal had been achieved. It was undoubtedly backing the unbeatable squad to win, but it also knew that the Lion Tiger Sword Saint had been instructed to let the opponents last for 3 minutes. The actual guarantee was for the great beast fighting arena itself. In the arena, both sides were now facing each other from afar. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint opened his eyes once more. His cold and calm gaze fell first on Wu Bingji, the leader of the Shrek squad. Though he had ice nymph blood, Wu Bingji felt as if his spirit was about to freeze when he made eye contact with the opponent. It was an invisible killing intent, a powerful mental intimidation that made him feel as if his body were already being torn apart. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint. How is he this formidable? Although they had known about his terrifying record beforehand, Tang San and Oppo's calm demeanor when he chose the opponent left them also calm and unhesitant. However, as they faced this undefeated warrior today, Wu Bingji finally understood how terrifying someone had to be to achieve 100 victories. At that moment, a figure stepped out from beside him, stepping forward to stand in front of Wu Bingji. Immediately, Wu Bingji felt his whole body lighten as the terrifying, oppressive fear vanished. Standing in front of him was the now taller Tang San. The eyes visible through the holes in Tang San and Oppo's mask were calm and unperturbed. The overwhelming killing intent that descended upon him instantly dissolved, unable to affect him. 1. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint and Oppo's eyes flickered. Initially indifferent to this battle, he finally showed a spark of interest. The Shrek squad and Oppo's strategy for this final battle was simple. Tang San had already planned it out before today and Oppo's match began. The strongest opponent, the Lion Tiger Sword Saint, was his to handle. The other 4 opponents were for Wu Bingji and the others. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint's teammates were 1 at the 9th order and 3 at the 8th order. Even so, if a team with 1 first-tier bloodline, 2 second-tier bloodlines, and a 3rd-tier bloodline with powerful elemental perception and control couldn't and Oppo's handle them, then what had they even bothered training for? Tang San and Oppo's right hand grasped the air, and a dark red light appeared. A war hammer appeared in his hand. It was Sky Shatter. Since obtaining Sky Shatterer, Tang San had used it just for forging and to help refine his spiritual power. It had only once appeared in battle, and that was to conclude the fight. Today, however, it appeared in his grasp from the get-go. When Tang San first saw the Lion Tiger Sword Saint, he knew that with his current cultivation, he would need a weapon to defeat him. To earn such an assessment from him, it was clear how formidable the Lion Tiger Sword Saint was. Indeed, he even surpassed Tang San and Oppo's expectations. Let the match begin. The host shouted, announcing the start of this ultimate showdown. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint and Oppo's 4 teammates moved almost simultaneously, dashing toward the Shrek squad. Beneath Dubai, array patterns flickered, and a golden pattern spread out. It was the Spirit Elevation Array. He was drawing in dense spiritual energy and injecting it into each of his teammates. Yes, the Etherhorn-Deer Demon King let them have the 3 array discs for this battle, to give them a better chance of survival. Tang San regarded this Etherhorn-Deer Demon King more highly because he hadn't and Oppo's forcibly dismantled the 3 array discs during his research, avoiding their destruction. The Spirit Elevation Array activated as Wu Bingji and Guli took position on either side of Tang San. At the same time, Chang Zicheng soared into the air, surrounded by a golden light as the golden rock transformation was activated. At this moment, Tang San stepped out of the spirit elevation array. The reason was simple. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint had moved. He had also taken a step forward, walking toward Tang San. His previously calm heart was now burning with battle intent when facing an opponent who piqued his interest. At his level, he could judge in an instant whether an opponent was worth his attention and his full effort. At this moment, the figure holding the war hammer that looked like an extension of his arm was someone he deemed worthy of facing with all his might. Even if the opponent was cleaved in half by his sword in the next moment, he believed that at least this opponent deserved his respect. Intense golden flames surged from the Lion Tiger Sword Saint. The blaze exuded not only heat but also a sort of sanctity, making his figure seem even more majestic. The hefty sword in his hand, over 2 meters long and half a meter wide, was instantly dyed golden. His first 3 steps were slow, but the 4th step was the start of a sprint. He charged at Tang San with enormous strides, dragging the hefty sword behind him. With each step he took, his aura grew more potent, and his golden flames burned more fiercely. The host looked at the Lion Tiger Sword Saint with uncertainty in his eyes. He was very familiar with this situation, having watched countless matches. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint was going all out. The opponent was unlikely to block such an attack. Wooden and Oppos. That mean the match could indeed end within 3 minutes? No, that couldn't and Oppos happen. If it did, he might be punished. Was the guaranteed win really going to be a guaranteed win? As the Lion Tiger Sword Saint sprinted, Tang San started moving, striding rapidly toward him. Their strides were somewhat similar, and their speed seemed comparable. Almost simultaneously, they leaped high into the air toward each other. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint's golden flames erupted, but in the next moment, all the golden light flowed into his heavy sword like rivers into the sea. The golden heavy sword was instantly above Tang San and Oppos' head. This strike was a unification of physical power, bloodline power, and spiritual power. The audience vaguely saw the entire space behind the Lion Tiger Sword Saint turn golden, and an enormous invisible beast roaring at the sky. Faced with such a strike, Tang San and Oppos' figure seemed so small, like a speck of dust in the face of endless sharpness, about to be ground into nothing and disappear entirely from the world in the next moment. The golden light descended, and the figure that met it was almost instantly split into 2. Just as the stands erupted in shock, keen-eyed spectators were astonished to see that the split figure was 2 complete figures rather than 2 halves. A strange look flashed in the resolute eyes of the Lion Tiger Sword Saint. He forcibly pulled back the heavy golden sword, causing the golden light to flow back from the sword into his body. The next moment, a torrent of golden light burst out from him, producing a low rumble as if tearing the entire space apart. Centered on the Lion Tiger Sword Saint, a strange scene appeared. The outer circle was the exploding golden light, and within that golden light, closely surrounding him, was a circle of black ripples, as if space itself was being torn apart. The 2 figures dashed past him and flickered momentarily before quickly moving dozens of meters away, out of the range of the exploding golden light. The 2 figures then merged into one, landing gracefully without raising any dust. On the other side, the Lion Tiger Sword Saint also landed, the strange look in his eyes turning into a grave expression. Both sides stared at each other from a distance of dozens of meters, neither rushing to make a move. What just happened? 99% of the audience couldn't and Oppos' understand what had happened. Yet the most astounded ones were not them but the 1% who did understand. The stronger the spectator, the more intense the shock in their eyes. Siru looked a bit dazed as he stared blankly at the scene. Meanwhile, Guanlongjiang, Muanqing and Mu Yunyu, who had thought Tang San was about to be killed, slowly sat back in shock. Just like them, the other human spectators were stunned. Siru muttered a single word. Zhang Haoxuan and Oppos' mouth was twitching as well. His hands had clenched into fists at some point, but he still muttered Sin and Oppos'. He amazing? Sin and Oppos'. The disciple I taught amazing? As God-level beings, they could only vaguely discern what happened during the collision through their divine consciousness. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint and Oppos' strike infused all his physical, bloodline, and spiritual power into a world-shattering blow. Even as God-level powerhouses, they felt an intense threat in that instant. Although the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint was not yet at the 10th order, his strike, infused with the Lion-Tiger Golden Astral, did have explosive power at that level. With the terrifying physique and bloodline power that were the result of a dual Lion-Tiger bloodline, the strike was so powerful that the two gods couldn't imagine anyone below the 10th order stopping it. More importantly, the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint's spirit locked onto the opponent, making sure they couldn't escape. In other words, they could neither block nor dodge. And yet, someone had just dodged it. Tang San used miraculous footwork to dodge it, like a phantom, avoiding the sharp edge and slipping past his opponent. As he passed by his opponent, Tang San's figure swayed. It wasn't because of his opponent's power, but rather because he was looking for an opening. The hammer in his hand was already poised to strike. The Lion-Tiger Sword Saint also demonstrated his formidable combat ability in that instant. He forcibly pulled back, even though he had just gone all out. His power flowed back into him and he burst forth with a technique that integrated offense and defense, not giving Tang San any chance to attack. It could be said that both sides and Oppo's responses at that moment were superbly executed. The Lion-Tiger Sword Saint and Oppo's aura appeared grand and majestic, but the god-level powerhouses understood that Tang San and Oppo's dodge in that instant was the truly impressive feat. Such an evasion meant one thing. Either the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint had not truly locked onto him, or Tang San had easily broken free from the lock. What did this imply? It implied that Tang San and Oppo's spiritual power was above the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint's, and by a significant margin. Siru thought to himself that he could block the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint and Oppo's strike, but it would be a close call and he'd have to use his divine consciousness. Evading the strike was impossible, and even if he could dodge, he would choose not to. When facing such a strike that embodied the full physical, bloodline, and spiritual power of his opponent, dodging was not an option. A second attack would immediately follow, and then a third, and he would fall into a disadvantage against such onslaught. With that in mind, it made much more sense to block it head-on and try to counterattack. Yet in such a situation, Tang San had not only evaded the opponent and Oppo's attack, but also prevented him from following up with a second one. This was terrifying. It meant he might genuinely be able to face the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint head-on. As Tang San and the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint went through their first clash instantly, the battle on the other side also began. The other four members of the unbeatable squad unleashed their abilities, sending 4 powerful attacks toward the 4 members of the Shrek squad. However, at that moment, the golden array patterns under the feet of the Shrek squad members changed. In the next instant, the 4 figures vanished into thin air. Even as the spirit elevation array was still active, the teleportation array also activated, shifting all of them to the opposite side of the battlefield. The attacks of the 4 unbeatable squad members hit empty air. Among the Shrek squad members who had reappeared in the distance, Dubai had a smug expression and even beckoned mockingly at the 4 opponents. 3 days ago, when Tang San was planning the tactics, he first analyzed the situation for everyone. In the unbeatable squad, only the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint was a true powerhouse. Yet the other 4 members were not to be underestimated either. A demon at the 9th order and 3 at the 8th order would be difficult for Wu Bingji and the others to defeat head-on without sustaining injuries. The gap in cultivation levels was challenging to overcome. However, it was noted that the 4 teammates of the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint were all inclined towards close combat, at most mid-range attacks, and none were adept at long-range attacks. Even the member who was relatively good at control had limited range. The other Horndeer Demon King had just returned the array discs to them. Thus, Tang San and Oppo's strategy was to face the Lion-Tiger Sword Saint himself. At the same time, his teammates would use the teleportation array disc to engage in guerrilla tactics, draining the opponent and Oppo's bloodline power. This responsibility mainly fell on Dubai. Dubai and Oppo's spiritual power was the greatest among the team, only below Tang San's. With his spiritual power, the teleportation array disc could be used every 10 seconds without excessive strain. Tang San had asked Dubai if he wanted to be the protagonist of this battle. Naturally, Dubai did. Tang San then told him we and Oppo's employ a kiting strategy. The strategy was simple. Using the array disc, they would constantly widen the distance between themselves and the opponents, forcing them to chase and attack, thereby exhausting their bloodline power while also seeking their weaknesses. Without a doubt, even if the opponents believed their strength surpassed the Shrek squad and Appo's, they would not dare to split up and pursue them lightly. That would be suicidal. With Wu Bingji and Appo's explosive attacks, the powerful control of the Chrono Croc transformation, and Chang Zicheng and Appo's aerial assaults, even a ninth-order opponent would have a hard time if isolated. Since their opponents were not adept at long-range attacks, they had no choice but to stay together and chase. During the constant shifting, the Shrek squad would look for opportunities to counterattack. Tang San told Dubai that the more he could teleport, the greater their chances of winning. This prospect excited Dubai. Finally, he had the chance to be the protagonist. At this moment, the three-tailed celestial fox, a luck-bringer with a first-tier bloodline, was fully focused and extremely excited. Meanwhile, Wu Bingji and the other two were continuously gathering strength and looking for opportunities. Without a doubt, tactically, the Shrek squad was clearly at an advantage. Through Dubai and Appo's constant teleportation and the subtle application of misfortune upon the opponents, any enemy mistake could lead to them losing a member. Of course, all of this was contingent on Tang San being able to defeat or at least hold off the Lion Tiger Sword Saint. Otherwise, it would all be in vain. The 4 members of the unbeatable squad could not find a solution to this, and could only continue pursuing Dubai and the others. The Great Beast fighting arena was quite large, with a diameter of several hundred meters. Additionally, the 4 Kuden and Appo's move in a straight line because the Lion Tiger Sword Saint and Tang San occupied the center of the battlefield. Entering their combat zone at this level would be suicidal. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint had clearly instructed them that when he was facing an opponent, no one was allowed to interfere in his battle. Otherwise, he would kill even his teammates. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint paid no attention to the other battlefield. All his focus was on Tang San. Although arrogant, he never underestimated his enemies. Before each match, he would learn as much as possible about his opponents. The Shrek squad was no exception. After learning about these humans, he felt no threat. The precisely controlled icicles might pose a slight danger, but the difference in cultivation levels, combined with his powerful bloodline, gave him complete confidence in defeating his opponent quickly. Of course, he needed to keep the match longer than 3 minutes to ensure substantial earnings. However, in that instant of their initial clash, the Lion Tiger Sword Saint immediately realized that his opponent was not easy to deal with. The opponent had managed to break free from his spiritual locking and evade his attack that combined physique, bloodline, and spirit. He had used over 70% of his cultivation in the previous strike. It wasn't an Appo's a full 100% to allow for quick adjustments, and he believed that 70% of his power was enough to tear apart over 99% of the opponents in the Great Beast fighting arena. The fact that his opponent could evade, not even engage head-on but simply avoid his powerful strike, indicated at the very least that the opponent's spiritual power surpassed his own. This was something the Lion Tiger Sword Saint had never anticipated. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint and Appo's spiritual power was extremely close to the peak of the 9th order. Even if his opponent and Appo's spiritual power was at the peak of the 9th order, it should have been nearly impossible to break free from his spiritual lock unless the opponent and Appo's bloodline abilities were specifically related to spiritual power. The heavy sword in his hand slowly rose, pointing once again at Tang San. In the face of the immense pressure from the Lion Tiger Sword Saint, Tang San stood there unmoved, his expression unchanged, as if he was not affected in the slightest. Of course, his spiritual power far exceeded that of the Lion Tiger Sword Saint. Yes, he was also at the peak of the 9th order, but his peak was different from that of the Lion Tiger Sword Saint. Even without considering his divine consciousness, his spiritual power was much stronger than that of others at the same order. Ever since obtaining Sky Shatterer, he had been tempering his spiritual power with heavenly fire essence iron. The tempering made his spiritual power extraordinarily solid, creating more space in his sea of consciousness to accommodate more spiritual power. His purified spiritual power was extremely dense, and whenever its intensity became too high, a portion would be absorbed by his divine consciousness. Tang San knew he couldn't and Appo's break through to godhood anytime soon, so he focused most of his efforts on refining his spiritual power. Although the Lion Tiger Sword Saint and Appo's spiritual power was not weak, Locking onto Tang San was no easy task. Their standoff lasted for nearly 10 seconds. On the other side, Dubai activated the teleportation array again, transporting his teammates again. The Lion Tiger Sword St. Kuden and Appos. T hold back any longer and made his move again. Brilliant golden light infused his heavy sword, which he lifted at lightning speed. Previously steady as a rock, he transformed into a storm, sweeping toward Tang San. Tang San did not intend to clash with the charging Lion Tiger Sword Saint directly. The space around him subtly distorted as his figure flickered, moving like a wisp of smoke through the massive golden sword beams. It was the Tang Sect and Appos' ultimate movement technique, Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track. At this moment, Tang San and Appos' Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track made him seem like a ghost, transforming into numerous phantoms surrounding the Lion Tiger Sword Saint. He weaved through the powerful golden sword beams, narrowly evading the fierce Lion Tiger Golden Astral. Their figures flickered and crossed continuously, yet strangely there was no collision. The battle was silent, as if they were merely dancing around each other. The audience was starting to become restless. Those who had followed the guaranteed victory suggestion and bet on a 3-minute win were roaring angrily, curses and chaotic shouts rising in waves. However, those who truly understood the match held their breath, intently watching the movements between the Lion Tiger Sword Saint and Tang San. Before the battle began, no one expected that he would be the one standing against the Lion Tiger Sword Saint, and not the ice-controlling expert known for his headshots. What kind of cultivation did the Lion Tiger Sword Saint possess? Being called the number 1 in Cali City and Appos' Great Beast Fighting Arena was no exaggeration. Preventing humans from becoming nobles was an unwritten rule, and he was now the gatekeeper of the final battle instead of Yu Shi. When the ancestral court and Appos' overseers arrived in Cali City and heard that the last match would involve the Lion Tiger Sword Saint, they knew that the arena was fully intent on upholding that rule. But who could have expected that this human in front of the Lion Tiger Sword Saint could weave through his powerful sword intent and entangle the number 1 powerhouse of Cali City? Without a doubt, the Lion Tiger Sword Saint and Appos' expenditure was greater than Tang San and Appos' below the 10th order. Although bloodline power could constantly recover, it was not infinite. The difference in their cultivation levels was evident, yet the Lion Tiger Sword St. Kuden and Appos' land a hit on his opponent, which was extremely remarkable. Occasionally, green light flickered around Tang San. This was the Wind Astral of the Wind Tiger transformation, and he was using it not for attack or defense but to increase his speed. Even in his previous life, Tang San had never used the Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track to this extent. His level hadn't been high enough before becoming a god, and after becoming a god, he didn't and Appos' need it. At this moment, he was also immersed in the various insights brought about by his continuous evasion. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint was like a blazing furnace, constantly erupting. Tang San moved around the edges of this furnace, finding gaps where he wooed and Appos' be scorched, continuously weaving in and out. This opponent was truly pressuring him. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint was not only powerful but also extremely composed. He seemed like a natural warrior, facing any change in battle with calmness. In this short time, his sword technique changed multiple times, and he constantly sought openings and tried different ways to attack Tang San. The Lion Tiger Sword Saint quickly realized that he was inferior to his opponent in terms of speed, evasion, and spiritual power. However, the human's cultivation was at the 8th order, so he had the advantage there. The golden astral energy released by the heavy sword lingered in the air, forming golden patterns that floated in place. The intense bloodline aura in the air was continuously increasing. This was consuming the Lion Tiger Golden Astral, but strangely, the lingering energy seemed to cause a feedback, stimulating the Lion Tiger Sword Saint and Appos' bloodline to ignite. With each attack, the golden light around him grew brighter. Golden flames were rising around his body, and as the golden astral energy filled the air, the space for Tang San to maneuver became increasingly smaller. The crisscrossing sword beams constantly restricted his evasion space. From beginning to end, Tang San never clashed head-on with him, nor did he seem to attempt to break out.